to the meditation? Seeing none, please join me in a moment of silent meditation. Councilmember Whitney?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. We'll do the roll call, starting with District 1 City Council Member Mr. Hernandez.
Present.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Dr. Esters?
Present.
Ms. Whitney?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell will not be with us tonight. Councilmember Mackey?
Present.
And I do not know about Mr. Ray. Ranker is still traveling probably. And Mr. Rigg.
Here.
We'll do the announcement in the same order, starting with Mr. Hernandez.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind folks that coming up is the neighborhood game night. We're not going to be having another council session before then, but we're going to be starting off at the Hollywood Playground, 4812 Hollywood Road. Bring your family, meet your friends, or introduce yourself to a neighbor. Join us for some lawn games, fun challenges, and much, much more. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, but the Taste of College Park is also underway. Looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the restaurants that are on there. Missing a couple of great establishments in North College Park.
Thank you. Looking forward to Mr. Hill.
Yeah, not a lot of announcements today, but just again a reminder, and I know that Maria, our Councilmember Maria, will also tag this, but Good Neighbor Day nominations are open. If you're not familiar, this is a great opportunity to put forward a project that will benefit the community, and we will have volunteers from the university and our residents working together to complete these wonderful projects. So please get your nominations in before the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Esters?
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to announce that the Lakeland Civic Association will hold its monthly meeting this Thursday, July 10th, at 7 p.m., and it will be a hybrid meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Whitney?
Thank you. I also want to make an announcement about the year-end celebration for the City of College Park Restorative Justice Commission. It's going to be taking place on Sunday, July 20th. Sorry, I have to take my glasses off. Sunday, July 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. And it's going to be a celebration of Lakeland history, which we'll learn a lot about tonight, resilience and coming restoration. And they will share the final harms report and recommendation for Lakeland repair. So please join us.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Mackey?
Yes, and I thank Councilmember Hugh for announcing Good Neighbor Day. Just wanted to ask people to save the date. Good Neighbor Day is October 25th. It's from 8:30 to 12, and next month they will be taking volunteers. So put the date down on your calendar so that you can, if you can't run a project, then please volunteer for a project. We will be doing everything from gardening to collecting food to various things for the community. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hill, and thank you everyone for your leadership. It's wonderful collaborations between the city residents and the University of Maryland students and park and planning staff and everyone in the community. Thank you. Mr. Rigg.
Thanks. And this coming Friday down in City Hall Plaza, we'll be having our Friday night lights exhibit. Friday Night Live. God, I want to get it right here. And I believe Mr. Young will provide you with a little bit more information about that. But I'm going to have to miss because I'm going to be in Michigan for a family reunion. So my regards, but those are such great events, and I regret missing and can't wait to hear about it after I return.
Thank you. let's go to our student liaison, Mr. Despirito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few updates today. We did have that meeting the other day with Drew Vok, the student body president, discussed priorities for this coming semester, and also brought a lot of the comments from council members that was mentioned in the last meeting to him as well, and there'll be some follow-up on that. And we also talked about the advisory council, have some updates there, and I'll allow Amira to share about that.
Thank you. Mira?
Hi, everyone. Just adding on to what Nick was saying, we did have that meeting with Drew Vok. We had some great conversations. He looked over our advisory council applications, and he was able to approve that. He was also able to get us in contact with the comms director of SGA, so that way we can have them send out our applications for us, so those should be out very soon.
Nice. It's an update. Looking forward to. Very exciting. Let's go to our city manager, Mr. Young.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, residents of College Park. Just a few quick announcements tonight. One, we will start having our Teen Time event, which will take place on July 9th, tomorrow, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th of July. This will take place from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at 4912 Nantucket Road, which is our Family Youth Services facility. We'll have games, arts and activities, movies and music, and obviously peer support. But anybody who wants to register for that can do so at 240-487-3550. We do have limited space, but we're looking forward to a lot of participation. On this Friday, from 6:30 to 8:30 here at City Hall Plaza, we will host our Friday Night Live event. And the entertainment is a Thunderball. I'm not quite sure, what kind of music, but it's always a good surprise. But I'm sure they will be very good, and we'll enjoy it. Obviously, we'll have beer and things for the children and to enjoy throughout the night. So it should be a good night, as usual. Weather permitting. We are expecting some rain on Friday, unfortunately, but we will try and do our best as we did our last one and get as much of the event in as possible. I think the last event we only had to cut off about 20 minutes of the event, but got through it, and residents really appreciated that we had taken our time with that. And lastly, we have our Taste of College Park event. Basically, it's the first time we'll be participating in Restaurant Week here in College Park, and that'll take place July 21st through the 27th. So far, we have over 20 plus local restaurants. Obviously, we need some more in the north. We have some that are in the north, but they're spread out throughout the city.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any question for Mr. Young? Turn on this.
Mr. Young, thank you so much, sir. If you or the Economic Development Office needs any help, I'm sure my colleague and I would be happy to showcase some of our great establishments in North College Park, and maybe we can consider trying to bring in a little bit more business up in North College Park. Thank you.
Happy to do so. Happy to work with both of you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Any other question? Seeing none. Let's do acknowledgements of the elected officials. So we have in the room our former mayor, Mr. Andrew Fellows. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Fellows. Thank you for coming. It's always good to see you. And also our former District 2 City Council member, Maxine Gross, is in the room as well.
Mayor, I had one more thing I needed to cover.
Oh, please go ahead.
I apologize. The Board of Elections will meet this Thursday to finalize the November election. The City of College Park will hold its general election for offices of mayor and the eight district council members, 2 from each district. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th, here at City Hall in our community room downstairs. Early voting is Sunday, November the 2nd, at Davis Hall from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And those who are interested in running for office, the candidate guide and required forms will be posted on our website by Monday, July 14th. Paperwork must be submitted to the clerk's office no later than 4 p.m. on Wednesday, September 12th if you're interested in running for office. And we'll put that information out to each of you and on our website. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any other elected officials online or in the room. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Seeing none, let's go to the next order of business, which is the proclamation and award. We don't have any. And this is the time to amend and approve the agenda. Is there any amendment to the agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the
Move
published
to
agenda.
approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The agenda has been approved. This is the time to have our public comments. So if you have any comments about consent agenda or non-agenda items, this is the time to come up to the podium and speak. You have full 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record, and if you're a resident of College Park, please go ahead, Ms. Gross.
Good evening, Mayor Kabir and Council. My name is Maxine Gross. I'm a resident of the city of College Park, and I have a few things I'd like to share with you this evening. The first of them is a poem. It was written around 1977 by someone very close to me, a resident of Lakeland, and it's called Sometimes I Think of Maryland. Big old houses have passed away like summer's dust. Green apples, poke salad, the AME church, blue sky, and Reverend Batty's sermon. The safety of Grandma's rocker, a lullaby from her knee, her sweet voice, her hands so clean, praying or scolding. She tends her mother's grave, her father was a slave. Go to sleep, little baby, go to sleep, little baby. When you wake, patty, patty cake, ride a big white pony. A brown flood breaks the banks. Down at the branch where I wrote my first poem, flowers bloom in a vacant yard where there was once a house with a porch, 6 low steps with a carpet painted on. I placed my head next to the earth and listened deep for voices, recognition, memory, song. Close my hand over empty soil where once grew corn, collards, and tomatoes 2 pounds big. Close my eyes to see the patchwork quilt of time and impossibility that covers me like a kente cloth. I close my eyes to see, no longer growing up, but older, a woman who bleeds with the moon and waits for a child to burden with this heritage. We're here tonight to engage in an act of hope, in work that will bring about the world that we want for ourselves and for our children and the others who come after us. Our world has changed drastically since we began this journey of repair, but today we still meet a milestone. Even though conditions may make some actions impossible today, we can still make commitments to shape the future that we want for ourselves, that we want for the world. So we take a step. You know, there's an old saying that says, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer to that one is 1 bite at a time. So don't be afraid to begin that meal. It may not be one that we'll all be here to complete, but it's worthy of a beginning.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll be discussing this item in the next agenda item on the Restorative Justice Commission's report. But thank you, Ms. Gross, for coming and speaking. Anyone else in the room or online wants to speak? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand and allow you to speak. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and approve the consent agenda. We have 2 consent agenda items. Let me read them out, then I will entertain a motion. The first one is 25G67, which is about the approval of annual renewal of Acela software licensing contract for use by the public services, planning, and engineering staff in the amount of $64,097.28 for the period of July 26, 2025 through July 25, 2026. And second and last one is 25G68, which is about the approval of a property use agreement in support of Lee Chun Food Corporation, TA Lee Chun Cafe for Class B beer, wine, and liquor license located at 7401 Baltimore Avenue, Suite 1C, College Park, Maryland 20740. I'll entertain a motion to approve these two consent agenda items.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed, any abstention? The consent agenda has been approved. Next, we go to the only one presentation we have tonight, which is about the Restorative Justice Commission's report presentation. And this will be taken by our Director of Human Resources, Teresa Way Pizzuti, and Courtney Thurston. Ms. Pizzuti and Ms. Thurston, please come forward. Floor is yours. Thank you so much for your work. I know it's a long journey.
Appreciate you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I really appreciate the time to speak to you all tonight. I've had the honor of serving as interim staff liaison for the Restorative Justice Commission while Kayla Carter is out on maternity leave. So please send her positive thoughts her way while she enjoys this special time with her family. But this evening, I'm joined by the outstanding research team that led the development of the Restorative Justice for Lakeland report. Across a 6-month timeline, the African American Redress Network developed an evidence-based report that highlights the historical context of urban renewal in the city of College Park, its lasting impacts on Lakeland, and recommendations for restorative justice. The resulting report is intended to serve as a guiding document for government officials to act upon the findings presented, explore remaining research areas, and design equitable policies that uplift the Lakeland community. I'd like to welcome AARN to present their findings. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. No, I just welcome them here, and I'm interested, and I'm sure everyone is interested in hearing about your research.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Linda Mann, and I'm going to just begin by first saying thank you for the courage of putting forward a proposal to do the Restorative Justice for Lakeland project, and for having us here this evening to discuss with you the final report. I would like to begin by requesting that you keep the staff report close at hand. Does everybody have the staff report that was given to you? Tonight's agenda will align with your staff report titled Restorative Justice for Lakeland, a report of historical harms, contemporary impacts, and policies of redress. We will review each policy proposal by starting with a brief historical analysis, followed by an examination of the impacts, and will conclude with proposed restorative justice initiatives, all aligned with the city's strategic plan objectives that we placed at the forefront of your staff report. However, before we begin, I'd like to start our presentation by first acknowledging the work that has come before us by the greater Lakeland community, to include Lakelanders, the Braxton Institute, the Lakeland Civic Association, and the Lakeland Community Heritage Project. Your voices have been invaluable. You've shared your stories, your pain, and your hopes, allowing us to see the profound impact this work can have. You have reminded us of why the city's pursuit of restorative justice is necessary. Your incredible dedication is evidenced in the significant report we submitted to the City Council, and your resilience serves as a powerful reminder and motivation for everyone to continue the work. Thank you. Additionally, we would like to recognize the partners and community organizations that supported our team during the research process, including those previously mentioned as part of the Great Lakeland community. Additional partners and community organizations include the Embry African Methodist Episcopal Church, Howard University School of Law Movement, Lawyering Clinic, Lakeland College Park Community Center, Maryland Legal Aid, Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreations, Prince George's Council, University of Maryland, and the Washington Metropolitan Transit Authority. To these partners, their expertise and insights enriched our conversations and actions and brought significant data and diverse perspectives that shaped the research and strengthened the work. Together, we explored the deeper meanings of accountability and restoration. To our AARN team that sits to the right of me, your tireless efforts behind the scenes have been remarkable. You have cultivated dialogue, understanding, and learning, which have fostered a healing environment and contributed to exceptional, robust research. Your commitment to this case has been truly inspiring. Finally, this project would not be possible without you that we are sitting in front of today, the City of College Park, the mayor, the city council, as well as the City of College Park Department of Planning and Community Development, the City of College Park Communications Department, the City of College Park Human Resources, and the government-sponsored Restorative Justice Commission. We extend our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you. Your commitment to justice and community well-being has been the driving force behind this initiative. While this journey has not been easy, your collaboration has laid the groundwork for restorative justice, transforming challenges into opportunities for change, equity, and justice. This evening, it is crucial that we concentrate on next steps, which is the primary purpose of this evening. I encourage everyone to embody the collaborative spirit that has brought the City of College Park to this point as you move forward in enacting policy, recognizing that each of us holds the power to affect change. The goal of the final report is to provide a strong foundation to the city to implement proposed government-sponsored policies. These initiatives aim to reassure residents of Lakeland that their membership in the City of College Park community is both valued and acknowledged and supported through effective policies. Thank you. And I will now turn it over to our team.
Hello, my name is Shakira Irvin, JD, and I am in charge of the community engagement for this report. Throughout the process of writing and researching this report, we made reaching out to members of the Lakeland community and stakeholders at large an integral part of our data collection, our impact analysis, so that we can get a very full, holistic view of the picture in College Park. As you can see through this slide, we have tried to capture some of the contacts and conversations that we have been able to have with the Lakeland community. You can see throughout the year, starting at Lakeland Day, some of the numbers of people that we've been able to record direct conversations with. That continued through the block party, listening sessions, town halls, interviews and surveys, on through our workshop series. And I just want to make plain and clear that these are only some of our captured attendance at some of these events. Prior to many of those events, we made phone calls, sent out email blasts, even went door to door in Lakeland speaking to residents, encouraging their attendance, encouraging their participation. So the larger contacts that we have had in the Lakeland community is definitely larger than the numbers that we have had for attendance. However, we wanted you to get an idea of what the community participation has been throughout this process. So for our process that we've used to create this report, we have a continuous process of 3 different areas that we like to focus on. First is looking at the historical injustices and past harms. And we do that through several different methods. There's definitely a historical policy analysis, literature review, archival research that you would expect of any data-driven process. Also, field work to collect data that would not traditionally be in the regular data sets, the information that is known or kept by the impacted people themselves. Again, to create a very holistic picture of exactly what the facts were that we were looking at. Also, we moved on to be able to measure the impact. That would be the present day implications of what happened as a result of some of those historical injustices. Again, we used interpretation and analysis of, yes, public data sets, but also leaned into community insights to understand what are the current conditions of people currently living in Lakeland, and also the Lakeland diaspora, the people who were descendants of those 104 households that were displaced from urban development, and what has been the impacts on them related to the area, specifically housing, health, environment, transportation, and education. And we also leaned on our community partners to have a great understanding of that as well, because they have been doing the work here for decades. And then we went further and developed some policy pathways, did an analysis of our stakeholders and even funding streams of how that it is possible to actualize some of the recommendations that we have put forward in this report. And the reason that this is a circular cycle, as you can see, is because even though we have completed this process in our report, this process of reviewing historical injustices, looking at the impacts, and also having a process of redress should be continuous and should not stop from this point. There should be probably an update of looking at, making sure that any harms have ceased and there's not a regression of continued harms, making sure that there is an erasure of some of the negative impacts, and that the policies that have been put in place are working and are being utilized in the future. So it's not a stopping point, but a continuous point.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Pablo Vasquez. JD, I just graduated last year, actually last month. Yeah, time is blending a bit. For the rest of the presentation, I'll probably speak from my seat because there's going to be multiple slides. But I just wanted to introduce the policy proposals section. So this is the third step in our continuous cycle, as Shakira just mentioned. And so these policies are generated from the conversations that we had with the community, the research that we've done. We categorize them in a few different ways using the pillars from the Braxton Institute, and also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we try to pair the SDGs with those pillars. So as y'all can see, there's 4 main pillars that we're focusing on: housing, connectivity, nature, and learning. And with each of those pillars, we match them with their respective United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we're going to get into more details about each of these particular policy points, what it might look like, how the City of College Park can potentially implement it, and next steps that would lead to the effective implementation of each of these policies. And so this is just a bit of a preview of what we're going to go through for the rest of the presentation. And as you can see, for most of the pillars, there's multiple different policy points. We try to focus in on some immediate actionable steps that could be impactful. With the exception of connectivity, you see there's just the one there. But again, we'll get into more details as we go on. And with that, we're going to start off with the first pillar of housing, and that's the SDG 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities. And this first policy recommendation is providing just compensation for the discrepancies between acquisition prices and fair market values. So part of the work we did was also looking at the original urban renewal policy, looking at the language in the actual law. And Section A1-102 of the original urban renewal bill established a legal obligation for the city to provide just compensation. And so this is just a snippet of that provision. So I won't read the whole thing, but the bolded lines there are key, which is no land or property taken by the municipality for any of the aforementioned purposes, and that's urban renewal. And then moving forward down, no land or property shall be taken without just compensation. And so through our research and through looking at the original language of the bill, we believe that an appropriate form of repair would be for the city to compensate property owners affected or their heirs for the difference between the value paid and the value of the property at the time of the purchase. And from there, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Jasia.
Good evening, all. I'm going to stay seated because each slide will be a different speaker. So to avoid disruption of us coming up and into the podium, I will sit here for my portion. But my name is Jessia. I had the honor of serving as lead researcher for the historiography. And so for each of the policy proposals that you'll be hearing tonight, we'll have some historical context followed by some of the present day implications. And then we'll go into the next steps for policy implementation and general design. So for this first policy proposal, I just want to start by saying that in 1973, the mayor and city council adopted Resolution 73 UR2 to formalize commitment to the property acquisition requirements of the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970, quite a mouthful, but they pledged to be guided specifically by Section 301 of this act. And this signaled that the city would ensure that property appraisals and just compensation amounts would be determined prior to beginning negotiations with Lakeland homeowners in this specific case. Jack Callahan, who at the time served as the City of College Park's Urban Renewal Authority Director, stated that 2 appraisals and a third would be used to arrive at fair market prices for Lakeland properties during the urban renewal process. At the time that the appraisers determined the fair market price, the homeowner could then accept or reject that price, and if they felt that the appraisal was unfair, they could bring in an appraiser of their own, and any kind of variance between those prices could then be contested further before a court. Now, by 1974, the city had contracted several appraisers to evaluate 96 privately owned parcels in the Lakeland urban renewal area. 57 of those were in what was known as Clearance Area West, which is the area that runs from US Route 1 all the way to Rhode Island Avenue, and 39 of those were in Clearance Area East, which is the portion of land beyond the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad tracks and what is now Lake Artemisia Natural Area at Lakeland. And so one of these appraisers, William S. Harps, was contracted specifically for parcels on the west side, and that's the sample that you see here in the table. Now, this does not represent all of William S. Harps' appraisals. The research team selected those in this table following a couple of conditions. The first being that we had at least one appraisal record for the specific parcel, and the second being that there was a difference between the acquisition price and the fair market value determined by the appraiser. And so, as you can see here in the third column, the acquisition price in all of these cases was $10. And in the accompanying deed, the $10 is listed alongside and other good and valuable considerations. Now, we don't know the reason for the $10, and we also don't know the potential value attached to other good and valuable considerations, but it differs from the fair market values that ranged in the tens of thousands of dollars assigned to specific parcels in the Lakeland urban renewal area. And so because of this discrepancy, this pointed to potentially underpayment by the city of Lakeland properties via eminent domain procedures during the urban renewal process, and it could indicate an outstanding obligation by the city to compensate those affected property owners for the difference in what they were not paid.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kayla Edwards Scott. I had the honor of working on the impact analysis and the contemporary implications for urban renewal in the Lakeland community. It's important to note that the value of Lakeland cannot be reduced to a dollar amount, but that home ownership has long been a primary source of wealth in the United States, and that's particularly true for Black families. And for Black families in particular, it's the single most important means for building wealth. So that means that the disruptions to home ownership, like the displacement that took place in Lakeland, came with steep economic consequences. In 1975, at the height of urban renewal, the average cost of a home in the Lakeland neighborhood was $45,000. In 2024, the average cost of a home in the Lakeland community was valued at $456,000. The nominal increase is $411,000, but the real gain, or rather loss, that somebody would have suffered if they were removed from the Lakeland community and were not able to benefit from the appreciating value of the home is $193,620.72. So on average, a homeowner in the Lakeland community would have gained 1.76% in real value each year between 1975 and 2024. Spread across the many families that were displaced from the community, this wealth loss reaches into the millions of dollars. This loss cannot be overstated, but could have been used to pay for college, to start a business, particularly in PG County, where Black folks were particularly hit hard in the 2008-2009 economic crisis. It could have also been used as a buffer. And when Lakelanders were displaced from the community, they also lost this wealth building tool.
Now for next steps on how to move forward based on the information that we provided very briefly just now. But the first being that based on the table that I showcased 2 slides ago, more remains to be investigated because it was just a sample. And so the recommended next steps are for the City of College Park to collaborate in investigating the reason for the discrepancy between the acquisition prices and the fair market values of Lakeland properties, and to complete the data set begun in the table. As I mentioned before, that was just a sample of William S. Harp's appraisals, but there were many others and multiple for each property. So it's quite, there's quite more to be investigated. And the second would be to conduct outreach to the Lakeland community to document all property owners and their descendants to facilitate that potential compensation for the underpayment that may have happened during the Lakeland Urban Renewal Project implementation. And a way to do this is in the final report, you'll see that there's a section devoted particularly to a database of names. What we have provided in that database of names is a solid foundation, but this further investigation could definitely add on to what is there to make sure that in addition to the affected property owners that are listed there, the descendants are also named.
Okay. Okay, testing. All right. So the next policy proposal under the housing pillar is establishing a return to Lakeland program for displaced members of the Lakeland diaspora. So one of the highlights of getting to meet with folks from the community has been talking to Lakelanders who either returned back for Lakeland Day or just one of the events, and hearing, that expression of connection and wanting to reconnect back with the community. It's an important point, and hopefully that's something that can be facilitated as well. So with this particular policy proposal, one of the most critical harms of the displacement caused by urban renewal was the severance of those communal ties. And that's, again, something we've seen firsthand in those community workshops and events. The Lakeland diaspora is currently spread out amongst the country, and the city can begin to repair that harm by establishing a Return to Lakeland program. And in order to facilitate this reconnection, the city can begin hosting monthly town halls for Lakelanders to voice their thoughts, concerns, and aspirations. Furthermore, the city can work to establish a database of displaced Lakelanders who are interested in returning, and community members who own property in Lakeland can also opt into a potential right of first refusal initiative. And the city can provide incentives like waiving associated fees and taxes, like transfer taxes, recordation taxes, etc. And again, each of these policies, there's more detail in the actual report itself. So these are kind of just the highlights, and we're more than happy to get into some more details during a Q&A. But that's just a highlight of what a Return to Lakeland program could look like.
All right, so thank you. For some historical context on the displacement of the Lakeland community, I think it's important to note the role that public rhetoric played in intensifying conditions of precarity for the Lakeland community during this time. And so what I have here is sort of a chronology of some of this messaging, and it's largely inconsistent, as you can see, across an almost 15-year period. So in 1970, we had Robert Edwards, who was the city administrator at the time, assuring the Lakeland community that no one would be displaced. Nonetheless, 2 years later, about 70 families were expected to be displaced, while another 5, and those in the 20 trailers on Lakeland's west side, would be temporarily relocated beyond the Lakeland Urban Renewal Project area. And then in 1973, we had even federal documentation through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Environmental Impact Statement, listing the removal of Lakeland residents as an alternative, and then labeling it as an alternative, an unacceptable approach. But I like to note this because the inclusion of it in a federal document notes that it was considered at one point. And later that year, we had U.S. Representative Lawrence J. Hogan, who represented Maryland's 5th District at the time, writing that very few families would have to be relocated, even temporarily. But then only 4 years later, the College Park director of the Urban Renewal Authority, Jack Callahan, stated that 67 families had already been moved out and another 44 were expected to be. And that brings us to December of 1984, where Jack Callahan then returned to say that only 25 of the 104 that had been displaced were able to move back to Lakeland.
In our ongoing conversations with Lakelanders, one of the consistent concerns has been that there's a desire to return to the Lakeland community, but the character of the neighborhood has altogether changed, largely as a result of urban renewal in combination with the expansion of the University of Maryland College Park campus and the need for student housing that's affordable for students, as well as the expansion of the city of College Park more generally. Historically, Lakeland was made up of single-family homes, and most, if not all, homes were owner-occupied. Today, many of the homes in the community have been lost to speculative development, who turned single-family homes into lower-cost student housing for University of Maryland College Park students. Between 1980 and 2023, the number of owner-occupied homes in College Park dropped by 21%, and in some ways, these numbers indicate that more houses are likely being turned into student rentals. And since 2022, 5 properties have been sold to landlords, and if that trend continues, the numbers indicate 100% of the neighborhood's housing stock will be owned by landlords by 2033.
So regarding next steps for developing a potential Return to Lakeland program, the first potential step would be passing a resolution declaring support for establishing such a program. So for each of these next steps for the policies, how we've structured it, we put a potential timeline of how long that might take. Of course, that might take more time or less time, but that's just a rough estimation. So the first step is, again, passing a resolution declaring support for establishing such a program. The second step would be conducting community outreach to gauge interest and inform the community about the upcoming monthly town hall series. And that outreach would likely take about 3 months to do effectively. And then the third step would be actually launching those monthly town halls and using those town halls and that time span to design the architecture of the program, what that might look like, what incentives the city can provide, what the logistics of maintaining such a database would look like and what the potential costs and revenues might be, and just other factors that would be necessary for developing a program like this. And again, if it's a monthly town hall over the course of a year, that should take roughly about a year. So the next policy proposal, now we're moving to the pillar of nature and the SDG 3, which is good health and well-being, and SDG 15, which is life on land. This policy proposal is restoring access to Lake Artemisia. And so we've outlined two potential options for how that could be done. The first option is building a pedestrian footbridge over the wall that exists there. The cost estimate is about roughly $1 to $2 million. And the potential benefits of this particular option is restoring physical access to the lake, whereas the downside is that it's a more costly measure. And for option 2, it's replacing portions of the wall with reinforced glass. And the cost estimate there is $100,000 to $500,000. And the benefit is restoring visual access to Lake Artemisia, and it's also a less costly measure. The downside, however, is that it does not restore physical access to Lake Artemisia. And again, the details of how that might work out and how we came about these numbers can be found in the report itself.
Now, before urban renewal, Lake Artemisia was the core of recreational activity for the Lakeland community. It was enjoyed across seasons with swimming, fishing, ice skating, and even the selling of water lilies and watercress. Its restorative properties were accessed freely by members of the Lakeland community. I mean, it was often frequented for meditation and reflection, and this was especially important during the era of racial segregation, when relief and tranquility through the natural world provided relief from those protracted stressors. Here we have a quote from Dr. Joanne M. Braxton, who was a Lakeland resident living on the east side with her family before urban renewal, and she described that, and I quote here, "We knew it was spring because we heard the frogs singing. The natural environment was sustaining, and that's where we took care of our wounds." After urban renewal, however, the thick wall erected along the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad track bifurcated Lakeland. It obstructed access to Lakeland's east side, and it blocked views of Lake Artemisia. The result of this was further exacerbated by the 1978 Lakeland Urban Renewal Plan, which is the one that was ultimately implemented, and that removed all housing options on Lakeland's east side, and also deprived the community of a source of nutritious food sources and natural landscapes. Before urban renewal, many properties on Lakeland's east side had vegetable plots, livestock, fruit trees, and this was supplemented by medicinal plants and wild berries in the surrounding woodlands. And so once that wall came up and lack of housing opportunities were the reality, that sustained connection to the outdoors was permanently disrupted, essentially. And this facilitated the onset of nature deficit disorders like anxiety, hyperactivity, obesity, and depression.
The report in part covers some of the physical and mental health challenges that Lakelanders report experiencing, in part as a result of urban renewal. And it's well established, research shows that access to parks and green spaces can be alleviating for some of the conditions that Lakelanders live with. And they're cut off from the space that is closest to them to be able to take advantage of the healing powers of Lake Artemisia. It's difficult still for Lakelanders to access Lake Artemisia. Today there's two options. You can either walk through a narrow underpass by the elementary school that's in the neighborhood, or you can walk to the Berwyn neighborhood and climb over train and metro tracks to get to Lake Artemisia. And these access points are especially difficult for elders who live in the community, which Lakeland is largely made up of elders, rather those who were not displaced from the community, young children, and especially for people with mobility issues.
So regarding next steps for this particular policy proposal, again, we have a first step of passing a resolution affirming support for restoring access to Lake Artemisia. From there, the next step can be establishing a steering committee whose purpose is to explore both the options, to explore both of the options and to develop a proposal for implementing them. And that would include timelines, potential funding sources, which could come from either city funds, general obligation bonds. That's in part how urban renewal was funded. Federal grants, community crowdsourcing, a lot of different options, and also developing recommendations. And that process, that research process and investigating those options would likely take around 6 to 12 months. And again, we detailed in the report where we came to those numbers, but that would involve talking with different construction companies and getting quotes and potential things like that. And then the final step there would, of course, be executing the plan. And this would go a long way towards restoring access to Lake Artemisia, which has been expressed to us by the community as critical. Okay, so moving on to the next pillar, which is nature, and the corresponding SDG is good health and well-being, SDG number 3, and SDG 15, life on land again. This policy proposal is to implement a net metering program. So the residential clean energy credit is a federal income tax incentive that's currently on the books that allows homeowners to claim a 30% credit on their income tax to cover the costs of renewable energy systems. That tax credit is going to phase out, however. So in 2032, it drops down to, I believe, 26%. Then in 2033, it drops down to 22% before it's entirely phased out by 2034. So the City of College Park can implement a solar panel program and a net metering program. And in order to explore the feasibility of that, it can start by implementing a pilot program. And that pilot program can take place in Lakeland in order to take advantage of this unique window of opportunity. So what might that look like? So a pilot program, first step could potentially be launching a sign-up portal on the city's website where homeowners in Lakeland can sign up to install solar panels on their homes. Residents would be able to take advantage of that 30% federal income tax credit, and College Park could cover the remaining 70% in costs. Or for a more budget-friendly alternative, College Park can cover 50% of those remaining costs in partnership with the resident. And after the tax credit is taken advantage of, the resident installing the solar panels is still able to save on 65% of the costs of implementing solar panels. College Park would also be able to invest in building net metering infrastructure so that homeowners could sell energy back into the grid. And just for context, if anyone isn't familiar, so net metering is a program where people are able to install solar panels on their property, whatever it might be, and any excess energy that they generate that they don't use, they're able to sell it back to the city, and the city's able to benefit from that energy at a lower cost, and they can sell it back to the grid essentially. So as part of that pilot program, College Park could receive that energy free of cost until the infrastructure construction costs and or the solar panel grant costs are recouped. So if the net metering infrastructure is built, if solar panels are installed, the residents of College Park, residents of Lakeland, will be able to benefit from lower cost energy that is weather resistant. It's, it works rain, sun, or shine. And the city could also benefit by receiving that energy back. And again, it could be free of cost until those initial construction costs are recouped.
And this slide here seeks to provide a snapshot of the historical challenges that the Lakeland community has faced in terms of accessing basic services that are critical to a healthy living environment. So to begin in 1958, this was 13 years after the incorporation of the City of College Park, but it was at this time that Lakeland's East Side residents finally were able to access the water and sewer lines that the rest of the city predominantly had already had access to. And before the access to the water and sewer lines in Lakeland's East Side, residents would access water through wells in their yards, and this was a shared community source. So neighbors shared with each other. And 4 years later, in 1962, it was at this time, after decades of reoccurring flooding of the Indian Creek and Paint Branch streams, that the mayor and city council passed a resolution to extend flood control measures. And they particularly requested that the United States Army Corps of Engineers consider Paint Branch and Indian Creek, because by this time, they had already implemented flood control projects elsewhere in the Anacostia River and tributaries. 4 years after that, in 1966, we have U.S. Representative Hervey G. Machen, who represented Maryland's 5th District at the time, call for local sewer and planning agencies, the county government, and also the city government to clear the stream beds of silt and debris, which had been a major cause of flooding at the time. And so we see the fact that he's even making this request showcases how governmental inaction had worsened flood outcomes for Lakeland. In 1968, we have the City of College Park, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, and the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission collaborating in removing some of the tree and debris from Paint Branch to provide temporary flood relief to Lakeland, but of course this did not include Indian Creek. And it wasn't until 1975 that the United States Army Corps of Engineers finalized the channelization of Paint Branch and Indian Creek as a component of the local flood protection project that was a dual it had a dual function with the urban renewal process, because there was also going to be landfill during the urban renewal process. So we see that over the span of several decades, the Lakeland community had severe and frequent challenges as it related to flooding. And we see that here with the quote on the slide. It was from Dean Tuthill, who was a professor of the University of Maryland in the Department of Agriculture, and it was published in the Diamondback in 1971. But if you see it, a snippet right there, Dean Tuthill says, of course, these people should not be living in this floodplain, in reference to Lakeland, but Black people are living there precisely because it is a floodplain. The people of College Park wouldn't let them buy houses in the more desirable parts, would they?
Lakeland was one of the worst hit areas when Hurricane Agnes hit in the 70s, and floods and natural disasters, but in particular floods, are expected to intensify, become more severe and more frequent as climate change is the reality in our communities. And in the northeastern United States, particularly in Maryland, heavier rain events are expected to increase the size of the 100-year floodplain by up to 45%. This means that the community of Lakeland will be at risk of flooding, and more Lakelanders may be potentially displaced if this is not addressed. And given Lakeland's position in a flood-prone area and the history of that flood damage already, the community is very likely vulnerable to these impacts. The county has acknowledged that the way that they are developing has not made this problem any better, as they continue to encourage suburban sprawl with parking garages, low-density, car-dependent residential development. It makes it more difficult to maintain some of the natural environments that would otherwise absorb the consequences of flooding and natural disasters.
So regarding next steps for this particular proposal, again, the first step, passing a resolution, just affirming support for implementing a net metering pilot program in Lakeland. The second step there, again, is establishing a steering committee to look into the cost and timeline for installing net metering infrastructure, gauging interest among Lakelanders for something like this, to see if, folks want to install solar panels, researching any pre-existing franchise agreements with any, energy companies that the city might have, and just checking for potential conflicts and also potential opportunities for collaboration. And then also considering establishing a tax consultancy to help Lakelanders successfully use the residential clean energy credit. So that might be something as simple as having someone who, if someone from Lakeland wants to install that solar panel program on their property and they want to take advantage of that residential clean energy credit, just having an expert that they can talk to make sure they're filling out the paperwork properly, they're able to actually receive those cost benefits. And then lastly, beginning a residential clean energy installation, beginning residential clean energy installation and net metering infrastructure construction. So the timeline there is, again, just an estimate. That's where having a steering committee and looking into what would it actually take to construct, how long would that process be, how much would it cost, that's where that would be really helpful. And this is something that potentially the entire city of College Park could benefit from. And just being cognizant of budget and time implications and scale, it could be beneficial to start it off as a pilot program, seeing, is this something that's feasible for the whole city? Is this something that could be an independent revenue source for the entire city to benefit from? And Lakelanders can be the first to benefit from it. Okay. So the next policy proposal, we're moving on to the pillar of connectivity. And the UN SDG goal is number 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So this policy proposal is creating a Lakeland Pass for free/reduced fare for residents. So the City of College Park should partner with key stakeholders to establish a Lakeland Pass that allows members of the Lakeland diaspora to travel for free. The city could create a sign-up portal on its website to gauge interest and estimate costs and lost revenue. The city could also use the same registration criteria of the Lakeland Scholarship to limit the pool of recipients or any other potential registration criteria. And the key stakeholders that could be involved in that is, of course, the City of College Park, the Restorative Justice Commission, WMATA, and the University of Maryland, which already has a shuttle program. We speak a bit about it in more detail in the report, but there are some limitations for UMD's current shuttle program. For example, just in terms of the routes that are available, the shuttle program does not run year-round during like inter-semester periods. It's not functioning. And there are particular routes as well where you need to show a UMD ID. Now, it's not for every route, but there are some routes where unless you have a UMD ID, you're not able to access that shuttle. So, there's potential room for collaboration and expansion of the services there as well.
Now, for some historical context, as we know, in Lakeland, there used to be a streetcar line that would arrive at Rhode Island Avenue. And it began in 1899 and ran all the way up until it was discontinued in 1962. And in that time span, it was the primary source of transportation and just travel generally for Lakeland residents. And it allowed the Lakeland community to be connected with other employment opportunities, recreation, and Black-owned businesses in the greater metro area. So it was really critical for them during that time, and a huge loss when it was discontinued. And then now moving on to the urban renewal period, in 1969, Murphy Levy Werman was an architecture and urban planning firm contracted by the city, and they provided an urban design study that was based on the federal submission for the Lakeland Urban Renewal Project. It synthesized essentially the problems, the alternatives, and the proposals in that federal application. And in it, you'll see in the quote at the top there, it commented, of course, on transportation, and it said, and I quote here, "The major circulation problems revolve around finding ways to connect Lakeland to neighboring communities and the main systems of College Park itself." When I read this, I thought that it still was reflective of the conditions in Lakeland today. So it goes to show that many of the proposals that are then bulleted under it were not actualized. And a lot of the reason for that was as the Lakeland Urban Renewal Project progressed, there were various periods in which funding was an issue, and they removed a lot of the scope of the project, and transportation was a huge component that was just discarded.
When urban renewal swept through Lakeland, a number of community businesses were closed, including Max Market, a beauty parlor salon that was located directly in the community. And today, the reality is that Lakelanders do have to leave the neighborhood for things like groceries, healthcare, and other services, but it is not at all easy to get in and out of the Lakeland community, either by private vehicle or by public transportation. Most people in the Lakeland community self-report that they use a private vehicle to get in and out of the community, but that's particularly difficult because there's only 3 entry points into Lakeland, each of which are inadequate to meet the community's needs. The one entry point at Route 1 in Navajo Street does not have a traffic signal. The other entry point from Navajo Street ultimately leads back to Lakeland Road, and then the entry point at 54th Avenue is well known that it is private, and it is privately owned and oftentimes blocked by a gate unless the owner decides to open the gate. So there's 3 entry points into the community by private vehicle. That is particularly risky in emergency situations, and again, with a lot of elders in the community, if an emergency vehicle does have to come into the community, it presents a problem, particularly given how busy Route 1 is. While Metro Bus, the bus, and the Green Line, as well as the UMD shuttle, all have nearby stops to the community, their routes mostly stay along Baltimore Avenue, so people have to come outside of the Lakeland community to actually access public transportation. While the Green Line is nearby, it's a 20-minute walk from the community. Again, if you're somebody who's an elder or have mobility challenges, it's especially difficult to access public transportation. And the nearest metro stop, the College Park UMD station, again, 20-minute walk from the neighborhood. And while the Purple Line is coming, that also is going to present some challenges in terms of development.
So The next steps for the creation of a potential Lakeland pass include, again, number one, passing a resolution declaring support for establishing a pass like that. The second step is reaching out to key stakeholders to plan some of those logistics that we just discussed. So how many potential program participants will there be? What are the current gaps in transportation services? What routes and stops are needed? And Kayla just mentioned a few of them. Just to corroborate, I'm not an elder. That walk was like rough for me, so there's definitely, some gaps in the services needed. The cost of extending those services and establishing a fair cost split amongst stakeholders. So it might be something as simple as UMD just adding like one route to one of the stops, so looking into what it would take to cover those gaps, and figuring out how all stakeholders can get involved in collaborating to provide those solutions. And then the last step is just beginning the routes and assessing the impact. So how many people are actually able to use these services? Is it really benefiting and impacting the community? Is there a way to expand the services, et cetera? So those are just some of the next steps for this particular policy. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the pillar of learning with the SDG number 4 of quality education. So this one is a little bit different from some of the other policy proposals. So the policy proposal here is establishing a free undergraduate/graduate education program for Lakelanders at the University of Maryland and revitalizing K-12 education in Lakeland. So this, the reason this slide is a bit different is this is from conversations we had during our town hall. And in those conversations, it became clear that we really need to make sure that we're providing services that all generations of Lakelanders can benefit from. So a free college program, that's going to benefit those who are already of college age, who are college ready. But there's the current young generation children, K through 12. There's older folks in Lakeland who are already went to college, who could still benefit from education programs and things of that nature. So that's kind of where these other policies were incorporated into this idea. So we'll explain a bit more as we go on. But so first, regarding UMD does have a unique legal status in College Park. So Article 12 of the city charter, section C12-1 of the charter, kind of outlines UMD's relationship with the city of College Park. And just for time, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the last kind of bit there is important. And so it starts off with, in consideration of certain lands, buildings, facilities, and equipment of the University of Maryland being situated within the boundaries of the city of College Park as defined by this charter. And then scrolling down, the University of Maryland is exempt from all taxes levied by the city. Therefore, the Board of Regents of the University of Maryland is hereby authorized to pay unto the finance director of the city of College Park such sum or sums of money annually as shall be fixed by said Board of Regents for the use and benefit of the government of said city, with which to defray in part governmental expenses and otherwise to expand as the mayor and council in its judgment shall determine for the benefit of said city. So just going a bit into some of the details of UMD, there are 12 different colleges at UMD that offer a range of both undergraduate and graduate programs. So we use the non-resident full-time cost as a baseline, and we determined that it would cost around $44,276.60 for 1 year of education at UMD, and $177,106.40 for the cost of a 4-year undergraduate degree. And so adding those numbers, it would cost roughly $4,427,660 to enroll 25 Lakelanders at UMD. And for reference, UMD's current operating budget for fiscal year 2025 is $2.97 billion. So that $4,427,600 estimate represents 0.14% of its current operating budget. So UMD can enroll 25 Lakelanders for free without impacting its budget in any significant way. Alternatively, for a more cost-friendly alternative, UMD can explore this policy by taking a slower and less costly approach, beginning with just an inaugural class of just 5 Lakelanders, and that would be at a cost of around $885,532 of foregone tuition revenue, and that represents a mere 0.02% of its budget. So details of what a scholarship program might look like and how the revitalizing K through 12 education goal can be accomplished with a free college program like this. So there are current scholarship programs that exist, like the Marshall Motley Scholarship Program, that provide free and full tuition as well as money for housing and other necessary expenses on the condition that recipients meet certain post-graduation requirements. So the city could work in partnership with UMD to develop a free and full tuition scholarship for Lakelanders on the condition that they dedicate a set amount of years of their career after graduation, contributing towards the goal of revitalizing K through 12 education in Lakeland. Other stakeholders like Leon N. Wiener and Associates can be involved to provide free housing to these Lakeland scholars while they're in school, and selection criteria can be based on a restorative justice scholarship, on the restorative justice scholarship criteria or other criteria that are developed while this program is developing further.
All right. As many of you already know, generations of Lakeland residents dedicated their time and talent to the university's growth, but faced discriminatory barriers to career advancement and enrollment at the institution. For example, in 1930, when 27 Lakeland residents worked at the university, they were considered labor and not staff, and were offered employment on a domestic basis in kitchens and in laundry. George Henry Gross, for instance, worked at the University of Maryland for close to 5 decades, waiting tables and washing dishes. And in the photo here, you'll see that there are 3 Lakeland men working in the kitchen of what was then the Agricultural College, which would transition into, as we know, the University of Maryland. And here on the right, we have a photo of Harry Braxton Sr., and he was employed along with Mary Johnson Weems by the University of Maryland's president, at the time President Harry Clifton Byrd, who sought to maintain racially unequal education in the state during his tenure from 1935 to 1954, but he employed both of these Lakelanders. Mary Johnson Weems, for example, was a domestic worker and caregiver for President Byrd's children, and Harry Braxton Sr. was his chauffeur. And in this snippet here, bolded on the slide, there are words from his daughter, Dr. Joanne M. Braxton, describing his experience as a chauffeur, and she says here, and I quote, he said that when he took Byrd to Ocean City, he could only walk on the boardwalk. Blacks, of course, were not allowed if he had his chauffeur cap on. He could walk the boardwalk because he was H.C. Byrd's chauffeur and because he had on a chauffeur cap. When did these people, who excluded blacks from the academic life of the university, do anything for their own domestic lives? What would life at U of M have been like for white administrators, the professor, and students without the Lakelanders who prepared their meals, drove them around, and wiped the backsides of their children? And for generally the K through 12 education in Lakeland, these are 2 examples of what the educational environment was like in Lakeland and what some of the challenges that they faced during the desegregation process. So as we know that during the county's desegregation process, there were several prescriptions to shut down black schools in the county, and this symbolically, right, trivialized the meaning, pride, and ownership imbued in these culturally centered institutions, and the systemic failure to esteem black schools' commitment to academic excellence accelerated job losses for black teachers and also cultural erosion. This loss of culturally responsive education and connection with black teachers and administrators affected the Lakeland community in innumerable ways. And we see here on the left, this is a yearbook photo from 1950, and it's Principal Edgar A. Smith writing a note to the graduating class. It was the last graduating class of Lakeland High School. And he was a beloved, a deeply respected leader in the community, and he served as principal from 1928 to 1966. Former students, for example, recounted, and I quote, how Smith didn't have to give you any punishment, just the way he'd sit you down and talk to you put students in awe. And if you did something wrong, the principal knew your family. It was almost like a big family. So these relationships and connections were lost after desegregation. And here to the right, we also have an example of what happened when Lakeland residents sought to access integrated or white schools. Many times it was a protracted and contentious process, and it placed the burden of time and resources on Black families to resist rights violations. And so we had in 1961 a hearing before the State Board of Education where the Prince George's County Superintendent allowed for Dervy Lomax's son Gregory to attend the all-white College Park Elementary School, and this only happened after Dervy Lomax, who was a city council member at the time, appealed to the county school board and was denied multiple transfer requests, and this was a year in the making. And once his son was allowed to go to College Park Elementary School, an NAACP attorney representing Lomax argued before the State Board of Education, and I quote here, that while Gregory Lomax had been taken care of, there were other children not accorded their rights because of the arbitrary discriminatory policy in Prince George's County.
Over the past decade, the University of Maryland College Park student population has grown by more than 8%, and that has led to a demand again for student housing, like mentioned earlier, that some speculative developers have found in the Lakeland neighborhood. While many of the young people in the Lakeland community would not be able to access higher education at the University of Maryland College Park for a number of reasons, which I think the next slide will illuminate. Students in Lakeland are zoned to attend 3 different schools: Paint Branch Elementary School, which is directly in the Lakeland community, Buck Lodge Middle School, and Parkdale High School. The Maryland State Department of Education releases a Maryland Public Schools report each year that evaluates school performance, and research shows that access to a high-quality education that's well-resourced provides higher academic achievement outcomes for students, college prospects, and career opportunities. But at each of the zoned schools for the Lakeland community, the academic outcomes are challenging at best, something that we should be really concerned about. Only 15% of students at Paint Branch Elementary School were proficient in math and 25% in English language arts. Buck Lodge Middle School, less than 5% of students were proficient in math, and only 20% of students were proficient in English language arts. At Parkdale High School, 8% of students were proficient in math and 44% were proficient in English language arts, and there are vast concerns about the college readiness outcomes in particular at Parkdale High School.
Okay. So regarding potential next steps for a policy like this, the first step is, again, passing a resolution just affirming support for and calling on UMD to commit to creating a free and full tuition scholarship for Lakelanders. The second step would be reaching out to Lakelanders to just gauge interest for such a program and to get a list of potential program participants. The third step would be having work sessions between key stakeholders to plan out some of those program logistics, which would include housing, tuition, finalizing selection criteria for program participants, how would people be able to access and benefit from a program like this. And then from there, surveying community and available education data to clarify the gaps and needs for revitalizing K-12 education in Lakeland. One of the goals expressed during those work sessions was a goal of 70% college readiness. So in some of those work sessions and in analyzing the publicly available education data, that can include breaking into detail what would 70% college readiness look like, what are some measurable targets, and how can we achieve those targets, and then moving from there. And then, of course, the goal of launching the first class of Lakelanders at UMD, and that can be occurring simultaneously with some of those other goals. And so just to close out, there's a lot of common threads between some of these policy proposals. And one of the things we want to articulate and express is how these policies can work synergistically and in conjunction with each other. So for example, having this partnership and collaboration with UMD, establishing a program like that, the free bus pass could work in conjunction with that. The residential clean energy tax credit, having a tax expert or tax consultant to help residents take advantage of that clean energy credit, that could potentially be a professor from UMD. There's a lot of areas for collaboration and synergy with these policy proposals, so hopefully we're able to demonstrate how these could all work together.
And this concludes our report and the findings that we have presented to you. I hope to speak on behalf of the entire African American Redress Network when I say that it has been an absolute joy and pleasure to study and to get to know every single person that we've come in contact with through the Lakeland community, through the larger stakeholders, through the, the council members. It has honestly been the joy of our life. Hopefully our report has passed over a data-based analysis of the harms that exist and an analysis of the impacts with actionable policy recommendations through a community-informed process. So now we are handing off the baton to City Council as we are now in your capable hands, and the continued efforts for repair will be of your choosing. We recommend for the next steps that you accept the report as we have submitted it to you, and that there be a commitment to the reparative policy efforts, and also that you work with the Restorative Justice Commission to actualize and finalize any policies. And also within the report, we have left a couple of threads that we were not able to completely explore that do merit further exploration that was not able to be done within the 6 months time that we studied. And we do urge that there be a continued exploration of these needs, these things of investigation. So at this point, we want to open ourselves for questions from the council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Before I take the questions, can you all give a big round of applause to the wonderful work of the Restorative Justice Commission and also the African American Redress Network. It's wonderful. It's a lot of work, and the report itself tells that. So this is a journey, and this journey started 5 years ago, a little more than 5 years ago, in 2020, I believe it was June 2nd City Council meeting. And I think most of us here were present at that meeting, except I believe 2 council members were not there, PJ Brennan and Councilmember Robert Day. And at that meeting, we made that historic resolution. And we acknowledged that this city, the city of College Park, made a mistake during the urban renewal, and we issued an apology for that. And we made a commitment to correct that. And that's when the journey started. And it's been a long journey, 5 years. And we supported the community, we supported the Lakeland community every step of the way. And we invested in this restorative justice effort. And it's a long list of things that we have done over the past. And I'm going to turn it to our city manager, Mr. Young. He has been intimately involved in that investment process and all the works we have done. Can you please tell us a little bit how much time and investment we have done over the years in the restorative justice work?
Kind of caught me off guard there. We definitely have invested quite a bit of time and effort from various departments, our planning and zoning, our attorney's office, our purchasing office, our finance office, city administration, as well as our family youth services bureau staff as well has participated quite a bit. But we also had our communications team that has also stepped forward, and obviously Kayla, who originally was not part of the process, and we actually took her off of her city duties and put her 100% toward this effort in getting this across the finish line. So we did also have initially a consulting group which we brought in and the city committed to, but there's a lot of dollars in which we've committed, but it's probably just a drop in the bucket to what the city will do going forward.
Thank you. I'm sure there will be more follow-up questions. I see some hand raised. So let's start with our District 2 City Council members because Lakeland is in District 2. Dr. Esters, go first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to begin by thanking you for the work, time, and effort that was put into this report. It is one thing to know about the injustices and to know that they occurred. It's all another to have this report which outlines it comprehensively so that this is a record. This cannot be forgotten and should indeed be something that is foundational in our work moving forward. One of the things, I am still reading it, I have to admit. I started reading it and have not been able to finish yet, but one of the major things that I heard as I read was that this process is not linear, and it was mentioned tonight. It's cyclical and should continue. And I think that this has definitely laid groundwork for us to move forward. I do acknowledge the work that has happened prior, but it was all to get us to this point and to move us forward. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to have participated in some of these meetings and to work with the Lakeland community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitney?
Thank you. I'm also going to have to start by saying thank you. Thank you to your team. Thank you to the Lakelanders who have dedicated so much time and energy and dedication. And the Lakelanders, one thing that struck me in the report is that we also owe a thank you to Lakelanders who have passed. They're not here anymore. And they never give up. They continue to come back. I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I was struck at many times with anger, sadness, sometimes shame. But what I really loved was that by the end of it, and what continued to be a stream throughout, was hope. The hope and the dedication for people that would not give up on their community. Time and time again, Lakelanders came before the city. They were engaged throughout the process. This was never a case where this body, in its past state, did not know what Lakelanders wanted. They made it very clear. They were very in touch with their own community, and they were ignored, and it didn't have to be this way. There were lots of financial challenges that came up with this project. There was lots of inaction and failures on the part of many different agencies. But there were opportunities this city had to make different choices, and they didn't make them. And that's really unfortunate. But I am very hopeful, and I'm very appreciative of the path that you have laid for us to move forward and to do better. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wants to speak? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Hill.
First off, thank you for the extensive research that you all did. It's definitely helps answer the question as to where do we start. I've waited saying what I'm about to say for quite some time. But one of the things I realized when I was going through the packet was I didn't grow up with the perspective shared by the Lakeland community. In my upbringing, not on the East Coast, I don't have the historical connection of the original states and colonies who were burdened by the rich and arguably recent memory of all Black communities. It's just something I didn't grow up in. I'm, however, conscious of the city I represent, and I'm eager to continue learning. I think in I want to say it was the second or the third recommendation, there was a recommendation of doing town halls to help educate and inform. I say this because I know that there are many others, especially in the district that I represent, of new families, of folks who are just transplants into the community that I represent, who we could all benefit more from learning about the impacts and just general public history of Lakeland and the impacts on its residents, and overall a better perspective. And I hope that we can have those uncomfortable conversations in a space where we're free to grow and learn. Because if you look, I mean, or at least what I've seen in some of the newspapers that document some of these actions on Lakeland, there was a number of different accounts, but they were kind of written by history is written by a certain group, right? It's not necessarily the winners, right? So I say that all cautiously because there's truth in every element. But I also want to make sure to remind folks that there were many different entities that were responsible for this, and it wasn't a burden just felt on the city. And I hope that any future research encompasses the role that the county, that the state, that the federal government, that HUD had in some of the grave mistakes that were done here. I saw the numbers, and I definitely want to get much more into those numbers when we're looking at the different options of how we begin to heal. But I'm just glad that we can circle back to the position that we're in here today, where we can answer the question of where do we start. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hill.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for putting together this comprehensive report. It's a very eye-opener. I feel honored to be a witness to this process of restorative justice and referendums. It is a guideline, I think, for many other communities. This is all too familiar of a story. I mentioned earlier to Dr. there that I grew up in Hawaii, and it's a very familiar story, of what happened to the native people there and what's happened here. So I'm glad to be part of this process of healing and restorative justice, all that. So thank you for all your work in this.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ray, please go ahead.
Sure, thanks. And echo my colleagues' enthusiasm for the work. I think both the historical work, but also the policy work is really pretty extraordinary. I am also a policy person at heart, and part of policy is looking at trade-offs, costs, and benefits too, and looking at from a political perspective what is possible and what is not possible. And I think it would suggest, and I know that your work is largely done, but perhaps our conversation up on this dais and with the community is of the extremely evocative policy proposals you all have proposed, which are achievable and which are not achievable. I mean, I was struck. I managed to get through the report in some detail, although it's an extraordinarily in-depth report. And there were some of them that were all the proposals were great. Some of them were eminently achievable and things that we could imagine getting started on today. Others would be really, I think, a challenge. Of the former, things like working closely to improve K through 12 education for Lakelanders and for people living in the community. As you all, you didn't note, but I know you know, that there actually aren't too many Lakelanders who go to public school in Lakeland anymore. And so when you talk about public school improvement for Lakeland, you're talking about a good chunk of sort of northern and central Prince George's County, because a number of schools serve the Lakeland community, not just Paint Rich Elementary, but from Paint Rich Elementary, Lakelanders can branch off into a bunch of different middle schools and a bunch of different high schools. And the city has made investments in some of those high schools that weren't captured in the report, but I think it's appropriate to note, and yet the substantial continued investments are still needed. And on the other side of the spectrum, there are other areas in which, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult. And just to name it specifically, financial remuneration for Lakelanders, you know, at the scope and scale that seems to be suggested would, you know, roughly $193,000 per household for about 200 households is about $38 million. The city's annual budget is $20 million, and we use that to pave roads and pick up trash and, you know, pay code enforcement. So that would be sort of incomprehensible to have that amount of excess revenue within the city of College Park available over any time horizon that would be politically supportable. So, you know, I think it's a lot to chew on. And I'm not, you know, by any stretch of the imagination saying I would oppose it, but it's just, you know, it would be in a society where you have a lot of people in the city of College Park who would vote for that kind of an investment. It would be a challenge. And a lot of these exist on that spectrum between things that are eminently achievable, eminently implementable, and things that would be a really, really big lift, you know, especially 40, 50, 60 years post hoc after the events that occurred, and of which only a handful of people who still live in the city of College Park were in any way directly involved. So it's a lot to chew on. It's a lot to consider. That said, you know, the city of College Park is invested in a restorative justice process, and I think, in my opinion, and for my colleagues, I think our next task is to figure out, of these evocative and in some cases provocative proposals, which are those that we can really put our shoulder to, and which are those that we can really work on, and which are strategic in that way, and which are some we're going to have to continue to strive for, think about, contemplate, and pray about, because it's just a whole lot. One note, a very small note, is the bridge over over the tracks to connect Lakeland to Lake Artemisia was mentioned in the report as being a $1 to $2 million investment. I happen to have some direct knowledge of a bridge that was built over DC 295 recently, a semi-truck hit a pedestrian bridge over DC 295. So it's in some ways kind of a similar scale project, but it was completed in 2022, $17 million. So there's a big difference. I think it's, and given a little bit of experience I've had in dealing with CSX and WMATA, I think that's probably, we're probably looking at a much larger investment than $1 to $2 million. But, you know, that is the sort of thing that you have multi-governmental go bonds to look at. You have several, you know, pedestrian accessibility to Lakeland, between Lakeland and adjacent parks is something that I think, you know, a lot of people would be behind. And so, you know, it's a really thoughtful idea. Photovoltaics similarly, the transit pass similarly. You know, I think these are, we already have some structure in place to support a lot of these things, and these are really really thoughtful ideas to consider moving forward on. So anyway, thank you all. It's a lot of babbling, and I apologize, but we do appreciate. We know that most of you traveled, and we appreciate your work. We appreciate your travel. We appreciate your labors, and you know, now the hard work with the community and among our elected officials really begins. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mack?
I'll just be brief. I just appreciated so much the detail of the report and just the facts that were put forward in the report. And the information you gave us is very important that we have, that we can use it to move forward. And I'm looking forward to working with just the city staff and the residents and all of College Park to address the things that you have brought to us and to move forward. It's not going to be easy. Doing this report wasn't easy. But I think that you have given us the tools that we need to thoughtfully move forward, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, and I do appreciate all the comments from the council and many of, I believe most of the recommendations that needs more investment and more spending in some way, and some of the ideas presented in the report actually talks about some way how those could be implemented. For example, the education, the tuitions at the University of Maryland that could be offered by the University of Maryland, not by the City of College Park. So there's an opportunity of collaboration, and all the entities and all the jurisdictions that were involved in the urban renewal harm process, I think all of us should be coming forward to address that, because this happened not by one entity, this happened by many entities, and all the entities should be coming forward. And I believe in one of the redress network meetings I mentioned that the federal government, the Housing Urban Development HUD, they were intimately involved in this urban renewal process. If you look at that infamous black and white sign, it has, on the top it has City of College Park's name, and at the bottom it has Housing and Urban Development HUD's name in there, because they are the one who actually funded this project, and not only in College Park but throughout the country. So it is important to engage them as we are thinking how we can address the harm that was caused. So it is a long process, but but thankfully we have the report and we have some guidelines where we can go. And as Mr. Rigg mentioned, some of the things will be pretty easy, and we are actually already working on some of the initiatives, things like environmental justice and the transportation options. Those are already our priorities. So it will be fairly easy, and I would say we're really excited that these proposals align with what the City of College Park already been doing. So let's work together. Now it's in our hands, and there will be more works to be done. I'm going to give more opportunities, the final words. Please go ahead. So may I have second bite?
Yes, please. I had one thing, just a suggestion as far as talking about possible funding that I didn't see mentioned in the report. I think it would be wise for the council to write a letter supporting Lakeland being chosen as one of the just communities that would be focused on by the state of Maryland that could possibly be a source of revenue for some of the goals that we have here. Yeah. Also written about extensively in the report was a suggestion about marijuana taxes, and the sales taxes, and I wanted to ask you guys about that. When you suggested the 1% increase, were you suggesting requesting from the state of Maryland that they increase that tax by 1% and to somehow reserve that revenue for College Park, Lakeland in particular, or perhaps all communities in the state that might have been affected by urban renewal? Or what was your approach to that? Because 1% of a College Park tax on that would not generate very much revenue, I don't think.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up and just exploring and discussing some of the funding opportunities. So yeah, to your point, the way the marijuana tax revenue is currently divided, I believe 35% of the revenue is allocated towards community investment, specifically communities that were impacted by previous, marijuana legislation banning marijuana. So it could potentially function at exactly how you mentioned, where the state is adding, increasing it to an additional 1%, and then that excess revenue, which I believe was would have taken it from 9 million to 11 million. I forget the exact numbers off the top from the report. Yeah, that excess revenue could be earmarked specifically towards either that initial 35%, and then of that 35% bucket, that revenue is going towards College Park, towards programs in Lakeland. It could potentially be earmarked specifically for a particular program that is, from any one of these policies. There's multiple ways that it could work out, but I think definitely that's one potential source of revenue for some of these budget proposals. And just to echo the mayor's point, that's something we wanted to for sure emphasize in the report, that it wasn't just the city of College Park. Like, there had to be multiple levels of government that were engaging in this process of urban renewal to implement the whole the process that took place. And so in that respect, all of those different levels of government have a role to play in the repair. Going up to the county, the state, and then of course the federal government as well. So definitely, having those conversations about collaboration, about the different stakeholders and what role they can play and what role historically they did play. And that's outlined in the report in detail. Definitely, that's something that the burden for repair should not fall exclusively on the city. And just from a fiscal perspective, it just wouldn't make sense only for the city to do it as well. The county should get involved, the state, the federal government, et cetera.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your understanding. Mr. Rigg.
I did note that too, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since Ms. Whitney did. One thing that I worked on with Maryland Municipal League a couple of years ago was cannabis revenue. And for municipalities in the state of Maryland, is extremely constricted. There's like the 9% statewide, of which 50% of the 9% is accessible by the county, of which they have to give a maximum of 1% of the 4.5% to the municipality that generates it based on dispensaries inside the municipality. We have 0 dispensaries in the city of College Park. So even if we had several of them, it would be based on that formula, which can change. But it would be very small. It was something we chose to not get involved in a whole lot beyond sort of asking for more on behalf of the municipal league, just because of the way the state law was originally written. It's pretty weedy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Hernandez, second bite.
Yeah, I think some residents want to comment. I don't know if that's a thing that happens.
It's a work session, so.
But can I do have a question though. In the report and just from anecdotally, I understand that there was a number of different commercial properties in Lakeland, as it was a self-sustainable community. Did you all have, maybe I missed it, but any recommendations specifically about how to either revitalize like commercial industry in Lakeland? I know that it might be a zoning concern at this point, but just eager to hear what you all might have thought about.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So the reason why I chose not to include more detail on that in the report is because the Lakeland Neighborhood Plan that the City Department put together does actually designate, I believe, Rhode Island Avenue for in a future reality for commercial rezoning, and to bring back that historic district that used to be there and was destroyed by the urban renewal process. So I would defer to that document for further detail.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess that's my own ignorance,
No,
but
okay.
I appreciate it.
No worries. There's a lot of moving parts, but we designed this report with that as a complement in mind. So they work together.
Yeah.
Have we heard of any like particular desirable commercial properties that would fit into the neighborhood, or would we focus on some of those similar sort of businesses that were particularly profitable back in the day?
I would say the Lakeland community. Mr. Webster, would you like to opine on what some of those could be?
Please turn the mic on, please.
Some of the businesses that were there before were things like hair care. You had convenience stores. One of the convenience store in particular, there was actually 3 at one time. And they all did pretty well. They had different types of products, some similar products, and that serviced the community very well. So the community didn't have to go outside for those things. Of course, the community had gardens and fruit trees and those kind of things too. So to my understanding, there wasn't anyone in the community that actually went hungry per se. You didn't always get what you wanted to eat, but you got something. And the same thing that had to do with shelter. Everybody had shelter at that time. So the community we did a lot of trading. There was a lot of that was going on within the community itself. Let's see, other business, there were persons who had construction type of business. There was a lot of trade that was going on. There was a lot of small entrepreneuring that had taken place. So there was a tavern, there was a hall where different activities took place in the hall. There was a lodge, which was the Elks Home Lodge. And a lot of activities also took place at the school as well. So the churches, they had, they sold dinners and things of that kind of nature. So that's how the community was then. And of course, as we are into the type of environment that we're into today, then you would expand that concept throughout the community, if that kind of makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. I didn't mean to put you on the spot
No, that's okay.
to
It's
remember
uncomfortable.
all the different convenience locations. More to the point is how do we evolve and make sure that that same entrepreneurial spirit is still there, so that there's that generating sense of not only being but also just like purpose and work, right? So that folks can be able to build wealth even amongst that community.
Sure.
So thank you.
Thank you. And my understanding is that those businesses were close to the trolley trail, right? Where there used to be a Lakeland station. See, I wish we could have that, could be brought back again. Dr. Esters.
Yes, I wanted to respond to Councilmember Hernandez's question about the businesses. I think that a real focus has been allowing the community to determine what it is they'd like to see there, what they believe they will benefit from. Too much has happened in the past where things have been taken or people have given what wasn't what the community wanted. So vital to this whole process is the community having voice there. I also wanted to mention, as I'm sitting here and listening to this was hard. This is difficult to take in. And I want to acknowledge that. And I also want to acknowledge for those who found it hard to listen to, imagine what it was like to have that as a lived experience. And there are people who continue to live in this community and who've lived there all of their lives. So I impress upon everyone in the city to take the time to read this report thoroughly, to truly understand, and to be a member of this community who helps to make this better. So just wanted to say those things.
Very well said. All right. Please go ahead.
Would like to say just a couple of comments before we close. First of all, to your point, and I think you said it actually up front rather well. One of the things that we talk about in this work is that it's very important that we allow spaces for people to be uncomfortable. It's really okay. You know, for some reason in this world, we feel like we need to shy away and everything needs to be, rosy. But that's not reality. And I think it's very important to create spaces to be uncomfortable. I think also it's very important that however you proceed, that you put the voices of the community at the forefront. If you notice in my acknowledgement, the very first piece was to acknowledge the community members who have been doing this work for decades. They can be the voice to guide you in the processes going forward. Yes, you'll have to do the financial, the legal, et cetera. Looking at ways of collaborating with other entities, other institutions, other potential businesses. But throughout that process, the community should be at the forefront. Their voices should be at the forefront. This is the history that's been unwritten. Redo it. That has been our practice all along. The slide that Shakira, that Ms. Irvin gave you on the community and our focusing this community at the center and having Mr. Webster be on our research team. I don't know if you knew that, but Mr. Webster served on a research team throughout the entire process as a guiding force. Also, time with the Restorative Justice Commission with the Braxton Institute. Two other quick last comments. We very strategically aligned our responses and policy to align with your strategic plan objectives. I just want to bring that back to your attention on your staff report. We were very, very specific about making sure that it met your strategic plans for the city of College Park in general. And the question is in these objectives to foster and sustain an affordable and stable city for individuals. Unfortunately, the historical comment was that, well, who was that for, really? What individuals were you serving? So I just want to applaud you for saying that you actually are going to put all individuals at the forefront and individuals who have been left out in the past in the city of College Park. And yes, there were other entities, but our evidence strongly showed that the city played a very strong role in the determination. And so for you to pick up that anvil and to go forward and to try to create restorative justice processes that will amend that is courageous, but is also just. I also want to just say to you that in your process, as you're beginning to think about next steps, as you know, we researched this. There are over 600 acts in the United States of restorative justice processes. If you would like to call upon us for suggestions on ways that policies are being done elsewhere, funds going towards housing, funds going towards scholarships, we have many examples to provide you. This is also not just a US phenomenon, this is an international phenomenon. I just came back from Belgium, in which they are working to amend for colonialization of the Congo and exploring things such as human remains repatriation. So I want you to know, A, you're not alone, B, good on you. Please keep continuing. As I said, this is about a real solution to meet your strategic plan objectives for everyone, and particularly the Lakelanders who were left out of the equation in the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, and thank you again, everyone who has been involved in this process and in preparing this report. And I want to thank the Lakeland community, Lakeland Civic Associations, and everyone in the leadership who have been at the forefront of this long journey. There is a virtual hand raised. Unfortunately, our policy is that we do not allow anyone to speak on workstations. However, Ms. McDonald, if you could please send your comments an email, you have emailed us before, we'd really appreciate when I hear from you. Thank you. So as a next step, I think the idea is to accept the report. I think there's an agreement to accept the report, but do you need to take a formal action? I'm asking the staff.
No, it was a presentation. You don't need to make a formal action.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again so much for your work, and we'll be in touch with you. We'll look up on you if you need any guidance. I'm sure we need lots of guidance from you. Continue to look forward to that. Thank you again for your work. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to the next agenda item, which is action items. Is it 25G69, and this will be taken by our Director of Public Services. Mr. Coker, is he still here? And this is about the approval of a property use agreement for Samosas and Spirits LLC, TS Samosas and Spirits for delivery permit and Sunday off sales permit for Class B plus beer, wine and liquor, beer, wine and liquor testing license for 10250 C Baltimore Avenue, College Park, Maryland. Mr. Coker, the floor is yours. Is the mic is on? I believe so. Yeah, I think, yeah, the light is not on, but mic is on.
I think it's on.
Please go ahead. Thank you for your patience, by the way.
Yeah. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and residents of College Park. The item beforehand is 25-G-69. This is regarding the property use agreement in support of Samosas and Spirits LLC. And I would like to give a brief justification regarding this item. Through the package, it's evident that city was advised of an application for a special Sunday off sales permit for Class B, beer, wine, and liquor, and beer, wine, and liquor tasting alcoholic beverage license for Samosas and Spirits, located at 10250C Baltimore Avenue, College Park, Maryland. This application was previously executed with a PUA with city dated October 17 last year, 2024. The applicant is now seeking city support for a special Sunday off sales permit, which would allow the sale of alcoholic beverage on Sundays. The original agreement has been amended to accommodate Sunday operations if the special Sunday off sale permit is issued. The applicant has been invited to attend this council. I'm not sure if they are available online or not at this. They are? Okay.
Hi,
Thank you.
The applicant is behind
I had
you.
never, I couldn't apprehend.
I get
Okay. All right. I do believe that the package includes the amendment, the original agreement, and some other details with the package. At this time, I would like to give the opportunity to the attorney from the client side to make up their case. Thank you.
so much, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff. For the record, my name is Linda Carter, and I have to tell you, and it's so funny, when I met my client at her restaurant tonight to discuss tonight's hearing, I quoted Dervy Lomax, who would have been very proud this evening. And the quote that I told her is, "Every tub has to stand on its own bottom." Now, I was really young when Mr. Lomax served on this council, and I learned a lot from him, and it wasn't until I was much older that I really understood what that meant. And what he always viewed every case on its own merit. Didn't look at what other people had done, looked at what you did, and judged you on your actions. And tonight, we're asking you to follow Mr. Lomax's old adage about every tub on its own bottom. I did not have the pleasure of representing my client when she came before you with the PUA. And I don't know why the special Sunday sale license was not discussed, because it should have been, in my opinion. But in Prince George's County, as you all are aware, a Class A licensee or a Class B plus licensee has the ability to now apply for a special Sunday sale permit. That allows the licensee to sell all products to go on Sunday: beer, wine, light wine, and distilled spirits. There's actually a misstatement in the law. I know Stephanie and I talked about this earlier today. A misstatement in the law. The law would seem to suggest, it actually says, that you can sell with the Sunday sale license, you can sell from 6 to 12. That's not accurate. Sales cannot begin on Sunday until 8 o'clock in the morning. There's another section of the law that specifically conflicts with that. Our sales, however, would be limited to the hours of operation of the business as a whole. We're not going to open the liquor store, the portion of the liquor store on Sundays at 8 o'clock and not open the restaurant till 10. That wasn't the agreement that my client made with you all, and she's not going to back down from that. So we would just request, please, that we be permitted, like I think 120 other locations in the county, to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits on Sunday as packaged goods to go.
Thank you. Is there any question to the applicant or staff of District 1? This is in District 1, so I'm going to give opportunity. Councilmember Hernandez and Councilmember Hugh. Next.
Yeah. What is the primary purpose of this particular area? So we have, my colleague and I represent the north part of College Park, District 1, or just the northernmost district. What's the primary purpose of the business?
It's a combination of the restaurant, the samosas, which has been your passion forever. And if you haven't tried them, I had them for dinner tonight. They're really good. And the liquor store. It's not like it's not one or the other. It's a combination.
Okay. So where your request this afternoon gives me pause is asking the city to support not paying the $50,000 community investment fund.
That's not a community
So
investment
could you?
fund.
Could you
I
put-
apologize
could you-
for interrupting. So
could
the
you-
code provides that, I apologize. Let me, you finish your question. I apologize, sir.
Could you please just explain the remark in the staff report?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, under the law, a licensee is required to have an investment in the business to improve its aesthetics, if you will, of $50,000. There's no waiver for a Class A license. So, for instance, if you have a brand-new Class A liquor store, you still have to put $50,000 in. The board doesn't have authority to waive it. With a B-plus license, the board does have authority to waive the requirement that another $50,000 be put in to improve the appearance of the store. We're asking for that because obviously, as you all know, this is a brand-new business. They spent $450,000 building it, $150,000 in inventory, and $150,000 for the alcoholic beverage license. They couldn't, I was there this evening, I don't know how they could improve the premises. They've really done a very, very nice job with it. So that's why we're requesting a waiver, so we don't have to put another $50,000 into the business to make it look better.
Well, I think I've made these comments quite public before. I mean, I think any investment in the north part of the city, especially those that fall on the commercial businesses, would be something that everyone would benefit from. Now, I don't know what the provision says, so I can't cite it as carefully, but go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just pulled out the section, and it's specifically, it's the Board of License Commissioners Rules and Regulations, and it says the applicant is to invest $50,000 into the business within 1 year of receiving the permit.
May I approach? I've got a copy of the rules for each of you.
Ms. Anderson?
It's RR 81, number 5.
That's
page 71.
Thank you.
If you turn to page 71.
And Ms. Anderson, why doesn't the initial investment of opening the business itself count for that original $5,000? $50,000. Sorry, $50,000.
Why doesn't it count?
Yeah, because they invested into that business, right?
No, what I believe, if I can speak for what the applicant is making an argument, is that they have sought, the requirement does exist, but they are seeking a waiver of that requirement from the board. So the board is going to ultimately make that decision whether the waiver is granted or not.
But we would write in, or we would include that in our letter of support or not, right?
That's correct. I mean, you can weigh in on whether you agree with such a waiver. You could weigh in on that. You're correct.
Yes. I personally I'm not in favor of necessarily supporting that, because it sets a dangerous precedence for any other business who particularly wants to build some new sort of business in the community and chooses not to do the investment. But what I'm just particularly confused with is, to start a business, you need that startup fund, right? To build any business. If you put any amount of money and it exceeds $50,000, why is that not included with the rules? Why do you need to put $50,000 more?
That's the way the legislature wrote it.
Well, Ms. Anderson?
Well, I was going to say, I'll give you an example. I believe in 2015, there was a similar request by College Park Liquors. And that store, from me reading the agreement, was that it was older, and the $50,000 investment was used to update the store and make it look more appealable. So in this case, I think the argument is that it's a relatively a brand new store, so that's why they're seeking the waiver.
Okay. Yeah, you got me, Councilmember Rigg.
Does the property currently have a liquor license or a wine? I think it does. Right. So
Yes,
the way I read it, I'm not sure it's written this way, but the way I read it was, I think the $50,000 requirement was triggered by the application for a different type of license. So in other words, they made those substantial investments and when they applied for their original license, and now the rules would, unless waived, require a $50,000 addition, because typically you'd apply sort of for this from the jump, right? That's how I interpreted it. Perhaps I'm misinterpreting it.
So to the applicant, why are we applying for it now? Like what's the problem? What am I missing?
The prior attorney failed to ask for it at the time he made the application. That's the only explanation I can give you. It's not how I would have handled it. We would have done it all as one package.
Okay, because I need to explain it to my residents why
And
we're.
they've been open for 2 months now, so.
Yeah, I remember when they first came before council, so I wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in my mind, it seems like like a different circumstance, right, in this particular case.
Sure, you can think more. Mr. Hill, please go ahead with your thoughts.
Thank you. I was on council in 2015 when this new ruling finally came through, and it was a great opportunity for us to address the issues that have plagued this county with certain positions that liquor stores had in the community. I recall not only was it College Park Liquors, but it was also Town Hall.
Yeah, I did the town hall application, that's correct.
Came through. And I made Town Hall put a new sign up because they had those old gas station letters you stick up there and stuff that, they got a nice digital sign after that. But that's the sort of thing, the nature of this $50,000. And really, it depending on the age of the business, it's a drop in the bucket, to improve your own business at per the request of the municipality that they exist in, understanding the issues and problems that are surrounding that liquor store. Now, the only issue I have right now is that, and let me ask a background question. Do you have any other business or liquor stores or anything like that?
I'm the only one for this liquor store. Her husband does
My
have
husband has it, yeah.
Yeah.
a license.
because it would be nice to know what the vibe is, per se, at these other locations. Now, I looked up the crime stats and issues in that area, that Village Shopping Center. And currently, there's not a lot of history, which is good, but it's never had a liquor store before. And this is a new business that, in time, we don't know how it goes one way or the other, if problems get attracted or not. I hope not. I've been to your store. The samosas were great, and there's another one, like Pakoa or something like that. It's just
Pakora.
Yeah, Pakora. Yeah, I had that too. Oh, wonderful.
You asked me.
I love it. So, I was really excited to see such a combination of food and drink, being offered, just uniquely different. And that's what I like about College Park. We have unique, different businesses that fulfill gaps within the cultural spectrum of food and things, services offered here. As much as I would like to support this, I want to say let's see how the impact of that store is in that community. Because if we have any needs to address anything, that'd be a great opportunity that could be overlooked. Okay, so yeah, I'm disappointed that for your process that they didn't get right the first time, but at the same time, I think it allows us to just see how the impact on the community the store will have before we go forward with allowing that. But I'm not saying that, no, I don't want to see it happen there, but, you guys have only been open for how long?
2 months now. If I could offer a compromise, perhaps, 6-month trial period, we come back in 6 months. If there's any problems, we know what we're facing. And obviously, as the council is aware, you all have the ultimate hammer, because if she breaches the property use agreement, the liquor board's gonna listen to y'all. That's the bottom line, and she's ultimately aware of that, and she's got so much money tied up into this. She really needs to make that 7th day viable, and right now, it's almost impossible for them to open, because as you know, the restaurant sits in the back, people have to go through the liquor store. So currently, under the law, they can sell beer and light wine under 15.5% on Sundays, without a special Sunday sale permit, subject to a change in the PUA that allows operations on Sunday, hours on Sunday, because right now it's prohibited. But as a practical matter, it would be very difficult. As we were walking through tonight, I happened to see a bottle of wine that's 17%. Can't sell it on Sundays without an SSP. So we would implore you to please give us a 6-month trial.
Good.
We have other council members, maybe Ms. Whitney, please go.
I did want to ask, is there, as part of the property use agreement, is there a percentage of food sales that is required, and have you been meeting that thus far? Have there been any issues?
Yes, so the off-sale privilege, and please, Stephanie, if I'm saying this wrong, because I was not involved in the original negotiation. The off-sale sales of alcohol do not count towards that food-alcohol ratio, but on sale, I believe it's 80-20, and they're having no problem meeting that. 80% food, 20% alcohol, and no problems meeting that.
80-20.
Okay, so it doesn't, I'm sorry, so it doesn't apply, so at all, like the food doesn't factor in at all for off sales?
Correct.
So basically, the off sales can kind of almost in a way be considered a liquor store, period?
Correct.
Right? Okay. All right, well, I will say, I will just share personal experience. The Village Pump, which is, a block and a half from my house, about a year ago, started offering, maybe longer, time flies, went from a 6-day establishment to selling on Sundays. And, I haven't seen a change in my community resulting from that, so I'll just share that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Estes, and then Mr. Hernandez. Sorry,
I didn't have a first
see.
bite.
Dr. Estes and then
Yes.
Ms. Mackey? How about that?
Okay. So I do have a question about the name of your establishment. Because when it came to council, if I remember correctly, it was Samosas and Spirits. When I look at the picture of the establishment, what I see prominently is wine and spirits. And you have to look sort of for the secondary signage to see it says Samosas and Spirits. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why isn't the establishment prominently named Samosas and Spirits as I thought it would be when it came to us?
I think both are prominent from the road when you cross that. Samosas and Spirits, obviously, it's a cafe that we wanted to promote, and Wine and Spirit is the sign, so both are on it.
If I'm seeing it from the street,
Yes.
I see wine and spirits.
Okay.
Very clearly. Sure.
Please come forward, yeah. Please recognize yourself and.
My name is Sumit Kaneja. I actually operate the kitchen, and with my wife, I'm there mostly, for on the liquor side of the town. The reason why we went through this is it wasn't really becoming prominent for us to say just the Samosa and Spirit. It will look like it's a bar where you can just walk in and just drink, and we really wanted to kind of show it. So we asked the landlord also for that, and they approved the signage there. But it wasn't really to kind of play with anyone's mind. Right now, we are totally struggling with sales, and nothing to do with, what people are asking. They're coming in and they're getting samosas. And, but samosas is not really what generating the revenue for us. So once we are done on Saturday, the store goes dark on Sunday because of the fact that we can't really have someone come in and say, well, you cannot touch this liquor, but you can take this wine, this is under 15%. So it's causing a lot of confusion for us. But back to your point, it wasn't really to deceive anything. It's just a matter of that Samosas and Spirits were really getting this vibe of this is going to be a bar. We don't want to make it sound like it's a bar. So we kept the Samosas and we just put the wine and spirits so that it doesn't look like they just have spirits, no wine or beer.
I thank you for sharing that. For me, it feels more like a liquor store because it says wine and spirits and that the samosas are smaller. And when it came to us, there was excitement around this idea of the samosas and spirits. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if that is something that you'd consider changing in the future or not.
We have hired influencers, which actually prominently is going to be focusing on our samosas. We're actually getting a lot of good response. We're not doing anything with, and it's like, if you look at our reviews, it's all about the cafe. So I'll make sure that we are focusing more on the marketing side of the food, because that is where our story starts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey, and then
Yeah.
turn on this.
Thank you. I don't know if this is for Stephanie or for Linda, but I was wondering if you could explain to us why this law exists. Like, what was the reason behind it, just so I can understand
I
why?
can give some history behind the law.
Just a little bit of the history behind the law.
So in either 2014.
Please come close to the mic.
Well, I apologize. In either 2014 or 2015, you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember the exact year, the legislature decided that it would create 100 special Sunday sale permits. And if you may remember, and then I guess 2 years later, there were 5 more created. You may also remember at about that time, there was a director of the liquor board, a liquor board member, a couple of inspectors, a delegate, and a councilman who have exchanged their suits and ties for striped shirts. I don't know why the legislature did it the way it did it. There was a lot of, within the industry from the time that I started practicing law in 1982, there was always a lot of controversy as to whether or not liquor should be sold on Sundays. The basic consensus was if you were inside the Beltway, Washington, D.C. was closed on Sundays. You didn't want it because it would just take 6 days and spread it out over 7, increasing your cost but not increasing your revenues. If you were outside the Beltway, contiguous to either Charles County or Anne Arundel County, you wanted it because they were open on Sundays. So there was a dichotomy within the industry. Finally, I think the compromise was reached in either 2014 or 2015 with the creation of the 100 special Sunday sale licenses, when there were about 180, I think 180 more or less, qualified licensees that could have gotten a license. So you wound up with 80 that didn't, and obviously some that paid for them in other than $50,000 of improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation.
And then I should add, then subsequently, about 4 years ago, maybe 5, the legislature eliminated the cap. And at that point, Class A's had to do the $50,000 of improvements, but B pluses were exempt from the 50. And I don't know why, but that's what happened.
Before I go to other council members, I have a question. So there are 2 apartment complexes. There are a lot of people live there, Camden and Winefield. Did you get a chance to talk to them about this license application?
Yes, initially a lot of traffic came in and they were very excited about the project. This is our passion project, to answer some of the questions. Samosas is new to the area. We bring diversity, diverse crowds, so very receptive, and they want us to be open. So that answers your question.
I was rather, so we have civic associations in North College Park. In the past, Ms. Linda, you probably know that the attorney used to come to the civic association meeting to present these kind of cases. So I was thinking along the same
Yeah, we've
similar
certainly
line.
received no indication that there's been opposition, and the liquor board hasn't indicated to me that there's been any opposition.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rigg, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, and I'll be brief. I am very deferential to community concerns in these regards. And, not having heard a whole lot of community concerns here tonight, I would be inclined to support it. This is an application for a business that from what seems to be known and from what I hear from others of this diocese, is a responsible business. They sell a lot of food on site. They sell a particular type of food that I gather is fairly well regarded. I love samosas personally. I haven't had the opportunity to visit yet, but and I think in that regard really differentiate themselves from what they could be, right? Because this is a college town, and they could just be a liquor store. And there could be no samosas. And we could be talking to people who aren't thoughtful, small mom and pop business owners. We could be talking to people who want to run a chain liquor store, at the same location. And so, I would suggest, and, this is not my end of town. I live about as far away from samosas and spirits as probably anybody in the city could live. But I would be inclined to get a samosa and a spirit if I were in the area, and further suggest that this is the type of small and woman-led, minority-owned business that we should be supporting in the city of College Park, particularly when it offers a greater variety of cuisine and food than we typically have on offer in the city of College Park. And they're pretty new and could probably use a little boost from the city. And this is a pretty de minimis boost. I'm somewhat convinced by the applicant's suggestion that it's confusing to only be able to offer certain things on Saturday, and other things are kind of off limits because it's Sunday. And as a Westerner from a place where there are essentially no blue laws, I always kind of find these intricacies somewhat confusing. So I'm generally biased towards eliminating them, especially when they don't serve a rational purpose. So I would be inclined to support, but it would not be appropriate for me to lead the charge on this one. So defer to others to do that.
So that would be our District 1 council members. What do you think? Mr. Hernandez, please go ahead.
Point of clarification, when you said that you guys were exceeding the 80% of sales, is that total sales? You're selling that much more?
No, in the restaurant. Food sales are more than 80% versus 20% of the alcohol in the restaurant, in the cafe portion. That excludes the liquor store.
Oh, you
The liquor store is separate.
Oh, okay. So
And
there's
that was provided for in the PUA. That's how it was written.
Okay. So I kind of want to just open up here and say, typically when any of these come up, I'm fully supportive, just because in my mind, I also, coming from the West, find it extremely odd that definitely a lot shorter. Find it extremely odd that these things exist. But with that being said, I'm having a hard time. So I have the same concerns as my colleague, Councilmember Whitney. I understand you guys are. Sorry, Councilmember Esters. I know that you all are advertising yourself as a samosa restaurant. When I go to your website, I mean, it's really, I mean, it's a liquor store, right? And I only say that just because, you know, as feedback that, you know, as a person who hasn't yet gone, I'll make sure to go there in the next week or two. It was confusing when it came to us. So, just want to just make sure that you all understand that I didn't know that this was a liquor store. And I don't know if who you all spoke to in the community, but I know that our civic associations weren't necessarily talked to. And maybe that's not the community meetings that you were targeting, but it is a representation of what College Park has. And I know that other parts of the county may or may not have that sort of representation. But I will pride ourselves, especially in North College Park, for our advocacy. You can look us up in the Washington Post, as we are very, very adamant about our resident participation. So, I mean, I guess the other question is, who did you speak to in the community?
So, Mr. Hernandez, we got about 1,500 petitions signed within the community once we applied for the liquor board application. We actually talked about the concept. The same menu was shown. When you go to that website, there is a menu there, it's called Delight Menu. The reason why you see that website like this is because this website is powered by City Hive, which actually pulls our inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And they put all these ads are based on the inventory. If you go to any store, mostly liquor store that are powered by City Hive, they're all gonna look like that. And we added it will say samosas in the cafe if you look at that banner.
I see it, the 6th tab.
And then it takes to the Delight menu. And we have, when you go to that door right there, it just says right here, connect with us. And then there's a QR code for the food menu. So we're making it really prominent. It's just the way the platform is. It uses City Hive, which actually pulls all our inventory. Our food inventory is like, 15 items in the menu. But then because it is a liquor store, at the end of the day, it's Class B plus, which is liquor store. It's like Lax, which is a Beltsville store, is a liquor store, which is Class B plus.
I've seen it, yes.
And we're very small, 2,000 square foot footprint.
And you have my favorite rum on here, Diplomatico. But listen, in my mind, right, like, I just want to be very clear, like, as a consumer, right, as one of your target consumers here, it's not clear that it's a restaurant. So that's just feedback, right, from, one of your target customers, having lived in College Park. And that's all just to say that I think I'm in line with Councilmember Hugh in saying, not necessarily saying no today, because I am. I'm usually very supportive. You heard me at the very beginning of this council session putting the city manager on the spot about, hey, there are restaurants in North College Park that aren't a part of the Taste of College Park, right? It's a program
By the way,
that
they're willing to join.
right, where we're trying to promote and advocate some of the commercial businesses that sell food all around the city. You all are exactly what we want, right? It's just that's not necessarily how you guys are being marketed.
Yeah, but we will fix our marketing approach for sure. Thanks for the feedback. But if you walk into our store, you will see it. We have invested a lot. The liquor store does not look like the way the samosa and spirits look like. They're all fanciful touches around. We have spent a lot on our the platform, the way it looks like, the sidings, even like the cafe. If you look at it, it's just the way it's done is very contemporary, very modern, and even the lights.
The marble in the bathrooms.
The what? Right.
The
marble in the bathroom. But the main thing is, right now, the issue is we don't want to take a risk of getting violations from the cashiers when a customer walks in and they're getting the food. They're like, oh, you can pick this, but you can't pick that. For that particular reason, we're just keeping the business closed on a Sunday. All that folks who are, and we have seen this, whenever Sunday is closed, everyone else is open around us in the college. They're gonna go there, it's changing the path, and then they don't come back. And usually, people would love to enjoy food on a Sunday. IKEA gets a lot of traffic on a Sunday. We have not done enough marketing. Our sales are like $1,500 a day. We're not making any money. And I want to just put it out there that we are suffering, and this extra Sunday boost could help us add more traffic for our, daily Mondays and Tuesdays. And as Miss Linda said, right, give us the chance and you can see us that we're gonna make a difference. If we're doing something, if we're doing any violations, if we're not able to fix some of your feedback, then we can come back here to the board. But being closed on a Sunday because we're limited to just beer and wine, that's not helping us. And as part of the off sale, when people walk into our cafe, we do not have any bar. We don't serve them any spirits. We don't serve them any wine. There is a small cooler which tells them you can get up to 2 beer. And we don't even make that prominent, because when they're in the cafe, it's so small, we want them to eat, buy their spirits, and then walk out. And a lot of people love this idea of how they're able to just get into a liquor store and then there's a cafe in the back. So I would truly appreciate your support, and that's all I have to say.
Thank
I mean, I'll turn to my colleagues. I'm also okay just going with it. It sounds like there is an appetite to actually make some changes, but I want to hear from my colleagues as well.
Ms. Mackey, please.
So I tend to not really support all the liquor license we have in the city, but I am also a realist that, we live in a college town. We want responsible drinking and not irresponsible drinking. So I read the comments of our residents and their concerns, and your plea tonight is making me think, if my colleagues in District 1 are okay with it, that maybe we should give you a chance to see if you can make this work. I am concerned that you didn't go to the residents in District 1, their North College Park Civic Association. They're very engaged. I do respect what the comments that we've got from the residents. And, I was ready to vote no against you, honestly, just because I didn't think it was something we should do. I'm willing to consider it if you are willing to do a pilot, a 6-month pilot. So that's my view.
Yeah, we will.
That's my view. I do defer to my District 1 colleagues because they live in the district. I live far from you all too, and I like samosas. I'd like to come. I won't have spirits, but I know many people will, and I think that you made a case for being responsible, and so that touched me. So thank you.
All right, looking at...
And I'll join Ms. Mackey for some samosas.
Can I have a party? Samosa party.
They're good,
Mr.
yeah.
Ayer?
Please.
So earlier when I was first making my first statement, you mentioned a compromise coming back in 6 months. Because that way we can get a good feel to see how your presence in the community has, and in that way if we have any asks, then we can bring them up.
Okay.
And so I don't want to pass up that opportunity, but I would gladly support it.
Thank you,
after
appreciate it.
seeing,
We will gladly accept your acceptance of our offer, so thank you.
Can I make a suggestion though, Councilman? Would the council be willing, considering the newness of the business, they're having a hard time generating that additional growth? I was gonna say 3 months. But so long as we see the changes that we've actually talked about. If it's longer, then we can talk about that too. I've never been in this position where we had to talk about this because generally, we're not seeing new businesses in North College Park. Like that is a big issue. right? And I've continuously said it from the dais, like, how do we get more locally owned, like, small businesses in this part of the city that doesn't necessarily have all the foot traffic that you see? And now I can't go backwards on this and just say, no, you're asking us for help, so no thank you. I'm happy to be at 6 months. I'm also happy to consider 3 months. And I know it seems very
We'd be
flip-floppy.
more than happy to come back at 3 months and give you all a report on
But I'm gonna defer. So I'm the newest young buck up here, right? So I'm gonna defer to the seasoned experience next to me for their guidance.
Mr.
Can I just want to make sure that I'm clear on when we're talking about 6 months, 3 months, and Linda, help me. Because I think when you apply, the hearing is tomorrow evening. I want to make sure everyone understands. I think it's issued as an annual permit, right?
Yeah, but
So-
what I would do, and we could discuss this in more detail tomorrow, but what I would do is go before the board and tell them that we have agreed to come back before you in 3 or 6, whatever we agree to, 3 months or 6 months, or both, to tell you what our progress is, what our sales are, if there have been any incidents, anything that arises, we'll let you know.
Okay, Mr.
And my point is, I just want council to know that the permit is for a year.
For a year. It's an annual permit. Ms. Erdney?
I think 3 months for a business, especially a business in College Park in the summer, will be a very difficult time to show anything that exemplifies typical business
Not gonna disagree with you.
operations. I mean, this is not in my district. I would be inclined to just say it would be a year because that's what the license is for. And then in a year, we come back, we have them come back, or they have to come back to renew. And we request that when they do so, they show that they have been to the Civic Association, they have spoken with residents, and then the community will also have had a chance to go visit themselves and find out if they appreciate the business or they don't, or have issues with it, and then they can I'm sure they'll let you know, and let all of us know. And then it just seems like a logical way to proceed to me.
So can I address the timing issues? So this license will expire on April 30th, but it has to be renewed on or before March 1st.
Oh, okay.
So my recommendation would be that we come back before you in February,
In February, okay.
which is about 6 months, more or less, if I count right.
All right, so let me entertain a motion if District 1 Council colleagues agree.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
For 6 months?
6 months.
All right. So I move to approve a recommendation to the Board of Liquor License Commissioner of the Prince George's County, the board, to support a special Sunday off-sale permit for a B+ beer and wine liquor beer, wine and liquor tasting license for Samosas and Spirits, LLC, TA, Samosas and Spirits, Nidhi, oh, come on guys. Kaneja, members licensee at the property located at 10250 C Baltimore Avenue, College Park, Maryland 20740, subject to license and city agreement on the amendment to the agreement dated October 17, 2024, subject to the approval of the city attorney, and authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement and send a letter to the board indicating the city's support.
In 6 months.
In 6 months.
Are you adding the
Second.
warrant in 6 months?
Yeah, in 6 months.
No,
Or in February, maybe?
No. You'll put that in the letter, won't you?
That we come back in 6 months.
Yeah.
they come back in 6 months. We don't need to put it in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any second?
Second, yes.
Mr. Hernandez, any final?
I think we've had enough discussions here, and
We had
this was a
It's been
very
exhausted.
well discussed comment.
All
And
right.
honestly, just thank you for coming and being willing to talk with us. I feel like you'll be a member of the community, and I hope you feel just as welcomed as you actually are.
Thank you.
Absolutely, will do.
So
Thank
this is
you.
an action item, so this is the time if anyone in the audience wants to speak on this item, or online. If you want to speak, please raise your virtual hand. I'll allow you to speak.
Did they want to come to the podium?
Seeing none, so let's come back to the council, and any comment before we take the vote? Probably not. Had enough comments already. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? So this has been approved. Hold on, don't go away. You've got one more. This is 25G70. Mr. Coker, do you wanna kick it off?
It's his turn.
Good evening, council and residents of the College Park once again. The item beforehand is 25-G-70. Again, I think this is, the applicant is seeking the city support for a delivery permit which would allow the delivery of alcoholic beverage off the licensed premises. The Board of License Commissioners Rules and Procedures Number 23 prohibits the delivery of alcohol beverage to dormitory or sorority or fraternity associated with any university. Additionally, RR number 76 covers generally the requirement of the delivery of alcoholic beverages. The city and the applicant would enter into an agreement to ensure the compliance with the delivery requirements. I would ask the client attorney at this time to add on to what I have said for this particular item.
Good evening again. Historically, just a little background for y'all. Delivery is permitted statewide, although certain counties have opted out of it. For the last 40 years or so, Prince George's County has allowed delivery by either Class A or B plus licenses. In some cases, regular Bs, but we're going to stay away from that tonight because that gets really complicated and weedy, to quote somebody earlier. But Prince George's County does allow licensees to deliver. Now, there's been a morphosis, if you will, of the delivery law. When Chairman Jackson was chairman, when I did delivery permits, we had to give a defined area. Since his departure as chair, the board has opened it up, and if you're in Prince George's County and you have a delivery permit, you can deliver to any location in Prince George's County that is not statutorily protected, i.e. the colleges, college-affiliated school, housing, sororities, fraternities, anything that's got a letter on it, we stay away from. So last year, much to my chagrin, the state legislature allowed third-party deliveries. So they said, Uber Eats or DoorDash can deliver alcohol. My board, the Prince George's County Liquor Board, luckily has decided no. So there is no third-party delivery of alcohol in Prince George's County, not legally anyway. So delivery has to be made by an employee, and it can't be an agent. It has to be an actual W-2 employee that is at least 21 years of age and is alcohol awareness certified. The delivery has to originate in the store. It has to go directly to the person who is buying it. There has to be dual authentication of both the license and the credit card that's being used, both at the time that the order is placed and at the time the order is delivered. So I'm not sure if my son has appeared before you all, but he's an attorney in my office. And, oops, I apologize. And if I place an order for delivery at my office, and I'm not there, Ben can't take receipt of it, even though he's 30 plus, because I have to do it. Likewise, if he tries to use if I try and use his credit card, and that's not the credit card that was given at the time the purchase was ordered, the delivery can't be made. I have taken Rule 23 and Rule 76, and if I can approach again, I've tried to make what I call an idiot-proof guide to delivery in Prince George's County for my clients, because it is a privilege. And if you break the privilege, not only do you lose your permit to deliver, but your license is at risk. So they have to understand there's no margin for error in these deliveries. So if I could approach, please.
I'm sorry?
Which page?
She's handing you.
She's handing over, yeah.
I don't know if y'all have this one or not.
In the meantime, I know we're getting late. We still have two very important work session items. Is there Councilmember from District 1, maybe District 2? Do you have any questions? Please go ahead and ask your questions, please. Just to save a minute, maybe. Please go ahead.
All right. Ms. Carter, this item really concerns me, the delivery of alcohol in a college town, because, and I work in higher ed, and I know that there are situations that arise where people take advantage of situations. I'll just say it that way. And I'm very concerned. I wanted you, if you could talk a little bit more about this dual authentication, because I've never heard of this. How does someone ensure they have alcohol awareness, they have training, they're of a certain age as an employee of the establishment? How do they determine that they are actually selling for the purpose of an adult buying alcohol as they're allowed to, as opposed to, someone who's underage who should not be taking advantage of this?
So how the process works at this store, and Sumit, you went through this with me, so if I say something wrong, kick me and tell me. Only online orders are accepted, and you have to scan in your ID, and you have to scan in the credit card that will be used. Then, when the delivery is made, the delivery person, who is only an employee, has to actually physically take the card in their hand, look at it, the front, the back, make sure it matches what was scanned in, and then do the same with the credit card. Now, the problem that you have in College Park is, so we went through the logbook, and can you pass these out while I continue talking? We went through the logbook that sets forth who in the county has delivery licenses. Now, the logbook was only through October 8th of 2024. I personally did another 5 delivery licenses last year that are not in the logbook yet. And I clearly didn't do all of them, so I'm sure at least another 10 to 20 have been approved. Every licensee in the county has the right to deliver to College Park currently, and you all have no control over that. What I would suggest to you all is you have control over us. You've got the ultimate control, because if my client doesn't do what she's supposed to do, you go before the board and her license and her significant financial investment is all at risk. She can't afford to make a mistake. And you have a hammer over her that you don't have over any of the liquor stores that are in close proximity, but not in the city. And there are, if you look at this list, there are Berwyn Heights, there's Greenbelt, there's there's Beltsville, there's Laurel. And I know for a fact, because some of them are my clients, they are delivering into College Park.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Estes, do you have, you got an answer? District 1 council colleagues, do you have questions?
Yeah, real quick. What is the delivery zone when it comes to College Park?
There isn't anymore.
Oh, so you would just deliver anywhere?
No, I apologize, I misunderstood. So we cannot deliver, if you look at the very top of what I gave you, Rule 23, very specifically sets forth that you cannot deliver to a dormitory, a sorority, a fraternity, or any housing associated with the university or an academic facility. I take that to mean the View University. You'll have to forgive me, Ben's been out of school for 10 years, but I drove down US 1 tonight, I couldn't believe how many more student housing. All of those are off limits.
All of the off-campus housings are off limits?
Yes.
Okay.
They are student
only
housing,
the
they are
student
off
housing,
limits.
Well, okay. I mean, I just don't know from a legal perspective whether or not that would be the case, since they've certainly come up here and acted as commercial properties. But just to drive the point home here, there's also many homes off campus residences that have 9, 10 different students living in them, and it's another problem completely separate to this one. So there's its own concerns there. My concern is usually when there's liquor, there's nicotine and other items. Are you all selling vapes of any sorts, and would that be a part of the delivery process?
No, it would be samosas and spirits.
Or spirits and samosas? Okay.
I thought I did see some vape products, no. Site.
Oh, but you sell vapes?
There are vapes in the store, but there's very like Dyson's.
Please come to the mic because there's.
So as part of the cigarettes, the tobacco shelf, which is very small, there are vapes on the top. If you don't like it, we can take it out, but that's just because customers are asking for it, that's when we put it. But they're not prominent that we're selling vapes over there. This was a vape store prior to the samosa and spirits. Sir, I will request each one of you to come to our store so you can see we're not making it look like it's another liquor store. But the license allows us to have the cafe and this is 1,800 square foot. I personally didn't even know that we had to go through 2 boards. We got 1,800 square foot of space. I was a graduate from College Park, myself, computer science. I was a division chief for Census Bureau. I took the retirement after 20 years working for them. And this was my and my wife's passion to come up with something which is related to samosas, to come up with a model. And we know we went through a lot of hoops with a lot of different boards. But at any time, if I would have gone next to a Shoppers or a Safeway, this would have been a totally different picture. But right now, we are absolutely struggling, and that is because we are right behind Buffalo Wild Wings. They first go to Buffalo Wild Wings before they start spelling samosas. And, there's like, delivery is the way we're gonna deliver food. Now, if they go to our website where they see that there's samosa and spirits and only food, and the way the City High platform is, it's all about pairing. If you pick a samosa there, it will tell you this red wine would go better with this, or this white wine will go with this. So we're trying to make certain technology mix here.
Let's focus on delivery items.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No, I appreciate it. I really do. I'm not a big fan of any more vape stores in College Park. But really, just to focus in on the delivery piece, I'm sorry, I can't.
He'll remove the vapes.
Oh, no, I thank you. I can't even begin to comment on this without making sure that the community weighs in on this, because this one would be radical to put on the residents. I'm sure people would love it, but I definitely would need to make sure that it's presented to the residents.
That is fair. Mr. Hugh?
I agree with my colleague here that this, for a store in College Park to be offering this is, it would be a first. So again, if you could come back in 6 months' time, we can revisit this. Once we've got a chance to run it by our constituents and we just got handed these documents now to review. And we need to get some weigh in on it. So, yeah, I'd entertain it, given just a quick glance of other people operating within our delivery area. It does concern me with the number of rentals that we have in our community, that our students live in, all students living in these rentals. I've witnessed enough parties in my own neighborhood that way, but yeah, this would be something I'd be more comfortable discussing after we've
Will
had
it
time.
be, will it be comfortable if the applicant goes to the NCPCA Civic Association and then come back? Is that what the intent?
Yeah.
Mr. Yu, is it possible that we can say, we just separate the zone so that we can stay on one side of the College Park and don't, like, Mr. Hernandez was saying about the delivery zone. We can restrict the delivery zone so it never goes towards the university. Right now, if you go to DoorDash or if you go to Uber, there are about 20 stores that are delivering all in College Park. So it's kind of, like we in the College Park can deliver in the College Park, but other stores outside College Park coming into College Park. So I just, those are, my main thing is the awareness factor.
So it's 10:30, I entertain a motion to extend the meeting.
I motion to extend the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed and abstentions, so meeting has been extended.
Yeah,
All right.
I just don't feel right moving forward with this evening without discussing it with our community. We got to do a due diligence on this. So,
Mr. Rigg, is that on this area? Okay, please go ahead.
Just as a quick point of reference, I'm familiar with several of these stores that are in the list that already make deliveries pretty extensively in our community. My point is, it's already happening, and so it's not as though granting this would sort of, create something that
Well-
isn't already happening.
Right. Well, without discussing this with our residents, without, I wasn't aware of the list of, people already delivering, and that's something I need to discuss with our residents that before just, signing this off without
Yeah.
any input.
Thank you. Looks like, yeah, it's taking so long. So looks like my District 1 colleagues, they want you to be in touch with the Civic
May I ask
Association and
if this could
CPCA.
be continued to next month? We'll reach out to the community and then come back before you in August? Is that a possibility?
I don't think they have a meeting during summer. They have a next meeting will be in August.
Yeah, August or September.
Yeah, so you can come on September.
I understand the arguments that everyone's making, and I think it's an excellent argument. If people are selling already, then why not? But we just need to do our due diligence,
Yep,
to my
we
colleague's point.
understand.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Yeah,
the
thank
time
you
and
for your
consideration.
A lot of this
you
we
all
didn't
have
receive
given us
until tonight,
Thank you.
which is the problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your support and consideration.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to, we have two work session items, and it's now 10:32. Huh?
Keep going, sorry.
Unless the council wants to move to the next month. 14A, which is the security camera incentive programs for homeowners and business. I believe Mr. Young will be taking it off.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try and make this as succinct as possible. Tonight, Councilmember Hernandez introduced a pilot security camera program and an incentive program which would allow residents to receive reimbursement up to $250 and local businesses and nonprofits up to $500 after installation of a camera system. We modeled this a little bit after what's programs that are taking place in Montgomery County and in the district. We believe this would help us with a lot of the issues that we have in basically solving some of the crimes. If you look at the crimes that are contract officers in PG County, they often rely on video, and that's usually when we catch people, is when there's video available. But I think that this would be an opportunity for our residents to participate in making a lot of our neighborhoods a little bit safer and allow our officers more opportunities to be able to catch things on camera. But I guess I'll defer to.
Thank you. Thanks
Member
for putting this together. And as I said before, the council, previous council actually tried this a couple of years ago, but at that time, other jurisdictions were not doing it. So I think there's some hesitation in rolling this out. But looks like now other jurisdictions are doing, like Montgomery and DC are doing it. So thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for bringing this up. I'll let you ask question first because you're the one who proposed it.
Well, let me just give just a little context, if I can, as to why this, like, why we brought this, or I guess why the residents and I brought this item before everyone. In 2023, the Hollywood neighborhood had over 30 cars. Their windows were smashed in a single evening. Multiple tires were stolen, which are stolen in a very, very short amount of time. In 2024 of December, and again in the winter, police responded to multiple armed robberies across the city, cars and tire thefts. I think the attempted theft of an ATM at a 7-Eleven on Rhode Island, this District 2. There was multiple UMD crime alerts, porch pirates, and overall a feeling of just safety concerns. It's natural, right? As the city continues to grow, that we're going to see crime, whether it originates in the city or from outside the city. We're going to just continue to see those increases in crime. I've heard my colleagues on any sort of efforts for a police force would be really large, and that's, so I went to the residents and just asked them during a district discussion on March 5th to help strategize how we could partner with law enforcement. And a big request was to increase surveillance and partnerships with our police force. Last night during the public safety meeting, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but ADC Coletti, the police chief, said that the introduction of more residential cameras would support investigative and, more importantly, prosecution efforts because of the very physical evidence that's there. He said that it's challenging when there's evidence, when there's a lack of evidence. Also, last night during the public safety meeting, ADC Coletti shared that there was 26 thefts from auto that occurred in College Park just last month. This is an effort from the residents to act as a force multiplier through the help of the city and just increase the overall eyes helping protect our city. Received some questions from residents, I think in my district, of concerns of like just an absence of performance measures and evaluation of the program itself. I think that's fantastic. I think if we could include, hey, this is how many crimes are being committed and documented before and then after, we could definitely be able to have a measurable sense of success for the program. I would also carefully caution with everyone, right? The same cautions that everyone else has of overextending. I don't think we would need to force anyone to share that surveillance, because I think as a neighborly thing to do, people would do that anyways. It's something that I think that we can find a middle ground and have a conversation to address any of the concerns.
Thank you, and I agree with that. So maybe you could be flexible in sharing the data. If someone wants to voluntarily share data, that would be nice, but we shouldn't be forcing them in the beginning at least. I see everyone wants to speak. let's start from this way. Mr. Hugh?
I know a few years back, the county, I forget which district, maybe it was District 5, maybe it was 5. It was
one of the county districts.
Yeah, had a similar program, and I'm wondering if we can draw from their experiences, their participation, actual police, the way of transferring the data to the police, the number of participants, and the relationship with sharing, how that went down.
Can the staff work on that? It's one of the county council district.
It didn't go forward.
They didn't actually implement it, is you're saying?
No,
Oh, okay.
the county approved a program but didn't fund it, and then one of the
Oh.
districts, I think, had a source of funding for it, but based on inquiries we made to our county council
Oh,
reps,
thank you.
the program has not been implemented yet.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the due diligence. That answers the question, Mr. Hill?
So, I mean, I don't mind doing a pilot on something, but we need to know more about how this sharing of data would work. And you know, if we're providing these cameras for this purpose, it seems odd that they would not want to share the data. That's the reason why we're doing this. So, yeah,
Okay.
I need to know more about that.
Thank you. That's a policy matter, so we can talk about that. Dr. Estes, if it is okay if we come this way? Thank you.
Sure, I'll do my best to make it quick. Two things. So what I heard, or what I read, was that the purpose of doing this, and the argument that you made, Councilmember Hernandez, was that this was to help law enforcement. But then, what you said, well, we don't necessarily have to force people to share this. And people may just want to do it. And I think that there may be people who want to do it, but I also think that there will be people who have concerns with privacy issues, and how to maneuver that. So just throwing it out there. The other piece is that this includes cameras for both residents and commercial properties. And I wonder if we should not just focus on our residents, because I do think, and I could be wrong, that for commercial businesses, that's a part of doing business. That's part of the cost of doing business. And that I would think that most of them would have cameras or be working toward getting cameras, because we could certainly provide this for residents who have an interest. And then really understanding how we're going to do this. So who are we choosing? Because when we look at $15,000, and I worked out the numbers roughly, it looks like we'd be able to fund 60 residents. So is that really achieving what we want to achieve? So
Again, this is a pilot program, so maybe we can bump up, expand it later on if it's successful. It's a good question. Thank you. Ms. Whitney?
I'm generally in favor of the program, but I would definitely want there to be some sort of language saying that people aren't required to share it with any party. I guess I just have concerns with raids happening from particular federal forces that have been quite bolstered recently, that having more video around might somehow could potentially be used in that way. I mean, I don't know. I guess if the video's there and we live in that kind of a situation, maybe it wouldn't matter what we wrote in our laws saying that people don't have to share it. But I think some people would probably feel more comfortable having those limitations just, actually codified.
Thank you. Good point.
I'll be
Ms. Mackey.
brief, too. I want to thank the individual who sent us the suggestions through the MCCP or.
Mr. Skinner, I think.
Oh,
his
was
name.
it? Okay, I forgot your name, and I thought that they had some good points, and so I think that we should, listen to the residents. I'm generally in favor of this. I supported it the last time, but it didn't go through. One of the things that, the questions that I have for staff, and you don't have to answer me right this minute, is why aren't we like having uniform cameras? Like, why did we decide to let people pick, like, if they could use Ring or they could use a different brand? What was the reason behind that? Because I thought if we did it uniformly, it would be easier to monitor, I guess. Those were my thoughts.
Mr. Young, do you want to respond to that?
Do you want me to answer, or you want, I can wait.
And I just, let's see,
then my second question would be, I guess we'd cut off when the money ran out for the pilot. So I guess I'm assuming right for that. And one of the things that I did want to say is, when we did the pilot for the food scraps, we started small and then we did expand it. I mean, that might be something that we would do in the future. And I think that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Mr. Young, do not respond.
Sure. What we did do, and there is a reason why we didn't specifically call out a particular brand. People have certain preferences that they would like that for their home. They may want to purchase it from a different vendor than what we would have to put out there. What we did do is call out what our minimum specifications would be for each one of the cameras, and also a recommendation on the specifications that we think is best and would provide the best video for our investigators to look at. And how I envision this program working is anybody who participates in this program, we will know that that particular house actually has a camera. The investigator can then approach the owners of that particular property to get access to whatever video they have if within a time period. And that way they keep that chain of custody, because that still has to be something that happens. And so that evidence can be used when it goes to trial.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
I'm done.
Good. Mr. Ring?
Thanks. I have a few concerns about this, some of which date from the last time that we discussed this. My primary concern is a civil liberties related concern. It will be a matter of the public record if we provide subsidies to people for home security cameras, that the home security cameras exist. It would be discoverable with a simple MAPIA request. And thus anybody would be able to find out where the cameras are. Furthermore, with a warrant, I believe anybody could request stored footage on a home security camera. You can make the counter argument that that's what happens today, and that would be true. But the city would be, for somebody inclined to try to find footage of a street, a law enforcement entity could compel provision, I believe, of footage, and we just need to be very careful about that. That's my new concern. My older concerns are twofold. One is, and unless it's changed, I don't know that small incentives are enough to really change a whole lot of behavior. I think in essence what we will wind up doing is sort of subsidizing purchases that people are planning on making anyway, which isn't bad, I suppose. You could probably point to other examples of that we already do. But on the other hand, it's not necessarily the most efficient use of public resources. And then the second concern I have is, as I recall, and unless the technology has changed, I don't think it has, the expense isn't so much for purchasing the camera. The expense is for hardwiring it to your electrical and cloud storage and ongoing cloud storage and purchasing the account for that and paying that on an ongoing monthly basis. In fact, I think for a lot of these camera companies, their business model is more cloud computing and cloud storage than it is like cameras. Like they don't make much money on the hardware itself. They make money on the sort of storing of images. So, we might find ourselves, and I don't know how widely known that is, we might find ourselves with plenty of people who are willing to take our money to install a camera that they may or may not have been planning on installing anyway, but then wind up with kind of sticker shock after they're realizing they're spending $1,500 a year on cloud storage for cloud computers, or spending a fair amount in addition to the purchase of the camera, on hiring an electrician to wire it to the hard wires in their wall. So those were the things that, and I think those last two topics were the things that inhibited the sort of further consideration of this. And then the final thing I was going to add is I'd love to hear other communities' experience of this. You know, how did it actually promote greater adoption of this technology, or greater knowledge of the technology among law enforcement? You know, because I'm a little skeptical. Something about this just bugs me just a little bit. Anyway, thanks.
Thanks so much. Those are fair points. I see second bites. Mr. Hugh?
Councilmember Rigg brought up one of the, and Councilmember Mackey brought up some of the issues that I recalled surrounding the original program that the county tried to install. I recalled that it was surrounding a murder of a young person, that there were cameras in the community, but nobody was subscribing to maintain the data on it, and it was the lack of data, not the lack of cameras, that led to the attempt to fund this program. There are more cameras on the market today that has hard drives and RAM built into them. There is the issue of hardwiring the electrical to it. But yes, if we're going to do this, it would need to be a sort of camera that would have storage, because that's the problem we would create for the user if we put them in a situation where they have to subscribe to a cloud service and what have you. So I think that whatever our choices on going forward with this, I am in general supportive of it. But yeah, we need to do it in a way that it makes it usable, and you know, work on that relationship with the police. I just don't have that information how that would work.
Thank you. Second bite?
Yeah. To Councilmember Esther's question, I think we would probably do first come, first serve as to within the 60. And I think to Councilmember Mackey's point, this is, right, the idea of this program, or at least the vision of it, was to be a pilot in its very first initial steps and determine the popularity of the service and work out the bugs, because as there's going to be a lot of different services, folks will learn what they can and can't bear in terms of financial burdens. I think what this program, the intention, as I've been reminded on this day, is to think about when you're thinking about an idea. The intention of this program is to help address the safety concerns of the residents. And a way to help address some of the crime that's happening across the city is to be able to provide a source of evidence, both for the homeowner's peace of mind, but also for being able to prosecute those crimes. To Councilmember Riggs' point, I think your first point, I think any camera that exists in the city right now can be subpoenaed, and that data can be pulled, like regardless of whether it's helped subsidized by the city or not. The whole goal of this is to just incentivize and increase a voluntary presence of a monitoring system that protects each individual's property. And I would certainly be open to just letting it be for residents in the pilot program. I think when I had included the businesses, the store that came to mind was in North College Park. It was a tailoring shop, a dry cleaning spot in the Mom's Shopping Center that had been incidentally robbed, and then I don't know if they had a security system or not, but just to help address those sort of concerns. So whether people are planning on purchasing a camera or not, I think that this program would still increase the desire for folks to get a part of the community. It's a community monitoring system.
Certainly. And also, Mr. Rigg, you mentioned about the cloud storage costs. Those costs have actually gone down quite a bit lately. I think the average storage cost per month is about $10, which is not that much, I think, given the investment they'll be doing. Any other questions? Does the staff have enough direction, you think? Mr. Young, you're good. The next step?
I'm not sure
Looks
I
like-
hear consensus, but
Looks like there's a general
I
support.
definitely can
Big concern.
bring it back for action
Yeah.
at a future council meeting.
Certainly, and then we go from there based on the community's input. And thank you everyone who wrote to us, and with your comments, hopefully we'll come to a good spot. Thank you. All right, so let me ask the council, we have one other important, very important items, code and parking enforcement, and it could be lengthy. Do you want to have this discussion tonight, or you want to move it to next month?
Would I
Mr.
need to
Whitney?
make a motion to suspend the rules? To
Certainly,
remove it?
To remove it, yeah.
I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to remove the second work session item from tonight's agenda. And just to make the comment that, looking at this agenda, and I'm so sorry you guys are still here so late.
You
Thank
should
you for
have been
being
done
here.
before. I'm so
Yeah, but it seems really expansive. And I feel like it should be broken up into perhaps 3 work sessions coming forward. I know that's a lot, but it's just looking at the investment from the community commenting on this item, I think it's just a lot that we have to deal with.
Maybe.
Second, unreservedly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? So this item has been removed. Let's move to the future agenda items. I don't think I've seen any applications. Have I? Not. All right. Please.
I just, when I was looking at the future agenda items, I just noticed that a couple things that have been offered recently haven't been added to it, and that's fine, but just wanted to make sure that that it was noted that they would need to be added at some point.
Certainly. Thank you. Ms. Whitney?
To be more specific on that item, I noticed that I do not see a public hearing for the no stopping or standing in bike lanes ordinance on the future agenda for August 6th.
Correct. Kitty and I, we redid the agenda, the future agenda this week.
Okay.
And you will get a new one out this Friday.
Okay, so it is planned for August 6th?
That's correct.
Okay,
Plus
awesome.
the 3 other items that came in through the website.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So is there any other discussion on the future agenda? Seeing none, let's move to comments from the audience. So this is the last chance you have to speak, if anyone wants to speak. We have quite a few residents actually online. There are 11 of them. Thank you. Mr. Turnbull, let me allow you to speak. I don't have the ability to do that. Mr. Gardiner, can you please allow Mr. Turnbull?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Please recognize yourself and proceed with the testimony.
Yes, good evening. I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I listen to these meetings a lot. I think we need to limit the amount of time we spend on certain items. For example, the last item before the previous one, that took most of the time. And I know we're pushing forward this item about the parking in the city of College Park for long-term residents. I own a home in College Park for the last 35 years. And this is the first time I'm bringing it up because it's becoming a problem with these rental units. And I think we need to look at that and figure out how we're going to solve that. And I'm a senior citizen, and I like to park in front of my house. I don't have a driveway because I have a dog, and I like to let him run in the yard. That's why I didn't put a driveway in. But we need to look at how we're going to resolve this and how we're going to resolve the issue with these persons that are buying up the property, creating rental units, having multiple families living in the units, and causing us long-term residents inconvenience because of the number of cars these people have. I've written to you, Mr. Kabir, and I've sent it to the council. I got a response from you. I didn't hear from anybody else, but I know my neighbor has also written. One home next to me has about 12 cars. Makes no sense.
Thank you.
You know, that's all I'm gonna say. I wish we need to push this forward as soon as we can so we can resolve it and bring some ease to us who have been long-term tax-paying residents of the city of College Park.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Yeah, I do recognize your messages through Nextdoor, and thank you for your engagement. I appreciate that. This could be this could be part of the discussions we'll be having on the code and parking enforcement items that we were supposed to discuss tonight, but we'll be doing it next time. Thank you so much for your comment, and please keep sending your comments. We appreciate that. Anyone else wants to speak on any other items? All right. Seeing none, this is the time for the Mayor Council and the Student Liaison to speak. Mr. Rigg.
Pass.
Ms. Mackey.
Pass.
Okay, I'm going to pass as well. Ms. Whitney.
Pass.
Dr. Esters.
Pass.
Mr. Hugh.
So next week I will have completed the Sheriff's Office Citizens Police Academy.
Wow, good.
It was a long project, 10 weeks of classes, driving all the way out to Upper Marlboro, and it was a learning experience. So when we return, I will have my graduated certification of passing the class.
Thank you so much. I know it needs a lot of dedication, and you have done this. Appreciate that. Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, Mr. Turnbull, if you're a resident in District 1, as it looks like there's some emails, please feel free to send me an email. I've never received an email directly from you, so I don't know, Mayor Kabir, if you could just,
I got all the messages through Nextdoor.
Oh, okay.
Nextdoor chats. I do not have his email.
Okay, because I see there's been some emails referencing you, sir, so I think that we just haven't received your messages. Okay. Yes. And for the residents of District 1, please look out for a district discussion, hopefully before the month of August. So, thank you.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Let's go to our student liaison, Mr. DeSpirito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No big updates or anything. I did talk briefly to the Historic Preservation Group that did the Lakeland presentation about how me and Amira might be able to help facilitate future conversations with the university regarding their proposals for like extending the bus routes for the particular scholarship program. But besides that, that's all. So
thank you. Thanks so much for the engagement, Mr.
I'll
Boijma.
pass.
Thank you. And Mr. Young, final thoughts?
I just wanted to let the council know that last week, the College Park City University Partnership actually closed on its 100th home purchase through our joint program that we operate through CP Cup. And it's a pretty big accomplishment.
It is, yeah. They actually, it's probably already published a press release. They're working on it.
They're working on it. They'll probably out tomorrow.
Once they have it, probably the city can actually promote it because, as you said, Mr. Young, it is quite an important milestone, and we should be celebrating that. Thank you. All right, seeing none, and we don't have any closed session, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, any abstention? So we are adjourned. Good night, College Park.